let's start off talking about twat.
Yeah. This is as loud as it's going to get. Ready?
Set.
We are tWoTcast. It's episode 259. Exclamation point.
Can't you pretend to be yelling like, we are tWoTcast?
We are tWoTcast, episode 259. Holy fucking shit. Fuck my butt.
Oh, that was good, actually. I like that. Or actually, the first one was much better.
Yeah. Like that fake
Yeah. All right, everyone, shut the fuck up.
Wheel of Time. Reread podcast. Explicit and R freaking rated. Jono's the wild card, always talking shit. Joe's the straight man, he's a total dick. Tom calls in if he's not too busy. We are tWoTcast!
You're listening to tWoTcast, the Wheel-Time Reread podcast, now covering Robert Jordan's The Wheel-Time Book 2, The Great Hunt. Holy shit. Can't believe we made it. With me is Jono.
Jono!
Joe, sad about it.
Hey, Tom.
I'm Tom, study your maths. What the fuck is up?
I thought that was interesting. It was an interesting, it's weird that we're here already because I feel like we got here really quickly, but we did the first book in 14 parts, which is 10 more than we originally did. So I don't know why in my brain I feel like we're here fast, but
I feel like it's fast because we just keep saying it's going to take 28 years to finish. And then I'm like, we're already on book 2. And then I'm like, there is 14.
yeah, there's 14 of them. That is true. However,
Incorrect. There
it's
are
still
16
pretty
of them.
fast.
It is going to take like 7 years.
Well,
Yeah.
no, usually we take a big break over the summertime. So the fact that we're even recording right now is almost weird.
Yeah, I guess
We
that's the
should
other
stop
thing
for like 2 months.
that we were going to take a breather in between books.
We will, but
But-
we didn't have any special episodes to record, so we're just doing this now.
Some special episodes to record.
Like retarded ones?
Nah, I don't know. I don't have
Yeah,
the time.
We don't use that term anymore.
We didn't have
I
any
didn't-
mentally challenged episodes.
I'm
to record.
sorry, I said it.
It shouldn't be funny.
I'm sorry, I meant differently abled episodes.
So now we use the bad word and then we mock people that try to use the correct term.
Yes.
Yes.
It's like doubling down.
I was just not remembering the correct term, honestly. It just took me a minute to get there. I was just laughing. I was laughing at my own stupidity, really.
You know who else doesn't do
I
that?
don't even need a correct
Retards.
term. I just never have conversations about mentally handicapped people. So
Oh, well,
except
you know,
now, I
you know.
guess.
Yeah. Maybe you should call more often.
Do you guys want to do reading, watching, playing?
I do.
It's been a little while since we did
Yeah,
one.
it's been
Yes, man. All right. It's been a while.
good. I'll start.
What are you-
I'm watching
what are you reading,
Lost.
Oh,
I'm
watching.
rewatching
Okay, right.
Lost. What am I
How's it
reading?
going?
I'm 3 episodes away from the finish. As I said before we started recording, if we would have canceled this episode, I could have finished the whole show.
Let me ask you something. Do you watch the previously on Lost every time?
No, I skip it. And I don't know why they do that. It's not a DVD. It's not on TV. It's just like,
Just don't put it in the show.
thanks for the refresher. I just watched that 2 seconds ago. Do they understand binge watching?
Anyway,
The worst
fucking
is
Lauren and I think it's the best thing ever because Saeed says, "What happened?" like 18 times. Like every episode opens up with Saeed saying, "What happened?"
Just the
But
worst
he
is
says
eight.
it so even weird for his accent. He says it weird. Like he, as an actor, person, says it strangely in that scene. Like it's not like Anyway,
I just think it's
so funny
Because I
and we
literally
just can't not
watched an
laugh at it every
episode.
time.
I just watched an episode and he literally said it like 45 minutes ago.
Yay!
No, the worst is if you're watching HBO and you're binging
Yeah.
it, they give you a preview for the next episode.
Well, that's next time on Lost.
Who's that for?
Who is that for? They need to
Understand it.
just re-edit the show for digital medium. It's not that difficult, right?
Reading, I guess, a bunch of stuff, but I started back to work, so I kind of slowed down. But I guess I started Alan Moore's Jerusalem.
Wait,
I guess-
you're supposed to be in Dragonlance ship.
Yeah, I'm still reading that too.
Okay.
And the Shadow
You want to do a
Rising.
Dragonlance check-in separately, Tom?
I'm just on the first book of the Twin series. I haven't made a lot of progress.
Wait, you're 3 books in?
The first book.
Of the Twin series?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you read the Chronicles already.
Yeah, those are knocked out.
Yeah, all right. Well, when you're done with the first book of the Twin series, you need to give us a synopsis and your thoughts.
You know what I can tell you so far right now that I remembered from the first time I read it? Fuck, I don't know, 25 years ago. Caramon being fat and drunk is still irritating.
Yeah,
like it takes
him a really long time to get
I know it's exhausting. I just want him to be the Conan again and move on with it.
It's extraordinary, like painstakingly long.
It really does throw you off too. Again, I mean, I know it's coming, and I'm just like, where's everybody else? But they're not there.
It's just the two of them.
And playing is the same as always. Star Wars and Disney Arena. Disney Arena. What is it? No, I'm playing the other one. I'm playing Disney Sorcerer's Arena. That's what I'm playing.
Wait, so what's the other one called?
I don't know.
Heroes or something?
I'm just playing the one that's just like Star Wars. Yeah, that's the best one.
Oh, it's called Disney Heroes. Is the other one. Disney Arena is way better.
Yeah, it's the exact same game. It's just with Disney.
It is. It's the best.
Just trying to build up my team.
Yeah, me too. I like how they give you characters that are like kind of cool right off the bat instead of just like a random clone trooper and no name Jedi guy. And you're just like, what the fuck is this, Star Wars?
Yeah, they have no throwaway characters, I don't think.
Yeah,
They're
it's
all
just like
named
it's just
characters.
cool characters right away. Yeah.
That's entertaining.
Jono?
I don't know how long that'll go on, but I'm into it.
I don't play it frequently. I just kind of hop in and out.
Just do it the same every morning for 10 minutes like Star Wars.
Just a good shit. That's all it is. For me, reading, I finished The Witcher. I want to apologize to myself for having blue-balled myself. I read the entire series and was assuming, so there's a book that came out after the original series was done, and I didn't read the Wikipedia on ways to read it. I assumed that it was therefore kind of after the main, and I was like, after having finished the last book, kind of like, wow, that's cool, and then I won't give you a spoiler. And yet there's more to happen, almost like, you expect Rand to continue to live kind of thing. Not that Geralt dies necessarily.
Gotcha. No, I understand. Yeah.
Ends up, the book that came out way later was actually just a book that was about shit that happened before the first book ever.
So you could have just like read it first and moved on with your life.
Yeah, but I also finished the last book on like...
What a fucking waste.
Well, I finished the last book.
So you were expecting like Matt and Tuan and the Shan Chan book, and what you got was like, here's life in the Two Rivers.
I would have lost my mind.
Not only that, I think about the bigger concept here of like, you finish book 14 thinking like, there's a book 15. Like, so I'm like, yeah,
even more of a letdown.
I really fucked up. So I went back, like after like reading, I was like, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. And then I went and looked.
Can't wait to read that book after the last battle. What happened? Well, they're all dead.
So I need to reread the last 4 chapters of the last book. And then I finished The Witcher. Really enjoyed the series. Not like, I don't think I'd recommend it to anyone unless you were into it, but I actually really liked it. And now I'm starting Joe Abercrombie, and I've read some of his books before. It's very kind of like, that dark post-Martin site, like, fantasy book.
Yeah.
But his is written, pretty much everyone's a little bit of a drunk. They're all assholes. They're cursing. There's a lot of shit. And I just enjoy fecal humor. So, yeah.
So he's the guy, he's the guy that opened that store?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Fitch wrote other novels.
So watching third season of Dark is coming out soon, so we're doing a rewatch of that. We're watching Community, as I think I've mentioned.
It's taken a while.
Community.
We're almost towards the end of season 3.
That is slow. You're slow.
Yeah. We're only doing like 2 episodes a day, 1 episode a day.
I could start Community tomorrow and finish it tomorrow.
That doesn't sound likely.
I don't know if that's physically possible, but it sounds.
It is not. It is not. Also, you were talking about like watching Lost, and I was like, "Oh yeah, you mean the guy from the Paintball season 2 episode?"
You mean Cowboy Paintball guy?
Yeah. And I haven't finished season 3. I'm going to be very irritated if there's not a paintball season finale for every fucking season, because they're by far my favorite episodes.
It's weird how Sawyer, like, I would have expected Sawyer and Jack to like go on to do different stuff, and they kind of didn't. They did a few things, but they never really.
Sawyer tried and failed.
Yeah, a few times. And so did Jack.
Jack did one movie that I know of. I think that was pretty much it.
I think he did a few things. I don't know. But Kate is the fucking Wasp in the Avengers movie, so I mean, you know,
yeah,
that's not bad.
Yeah, she's everywhere. Which I wouldn't have guessed that she'd be the one. Because, you know, woman. What else are we watching? Yeah, women just usually aren't, you know, they don't perform quite as well.
Jesus Christ.
Jen was on Hawaii 5-0.
Yeah, that was good. And by good, I mean he was good in that shitty show.
I think I watched the whole first season of that, and I was like, I'm going to make myself like too. This. And then I was, with second season rolled around, I was like, I can't do it anymore.
I think we had the exact same watching.
It's entirely to support Jen and the girl from Battlestar Galactica.
What about Scott Conn? He's amazing.
He's all right.
And then playing is just still Final Fantasy Record Keeper and FIFA 20.
Oh, how's FIFA going?
It is the exact
Are the stands empty?
That'd be incredible. Just send out a patch.
Some downloadable content for COVID.
All your characters have like 80% stamina. They're a lot worse.
They don't try very hard.
Yeah.
Your fourth game is canceled because one of your trainers got a coronavirus and your whole team has to quarantine for 14 days. You can't play for 2 weeks.
Random injuries like, looks like Messi's out with corona because he was in Spain and that's pretty high. Damn it.
Yeah,
your whole team has to quarantine.
I'm finally wrapping up The Girl Who Lived Twice. And I've been trudging through this book, and I wasn't sure if it was bad or if I'd been reading it too slowly and just not getting into it, but I think it's just bad. And then I started watching Space Force on Netflix.
Oh, how is that?
It's pretty funny. I like it.
I started and forgot about it.
I've heard people are getting like mixed, like it's getting mixed reviews or kind of bad reviews, but I think it's hilarious. I don't know what the fuck's wrong with people.
I've realized that, and you know, I don't want to get onto like serious topics because fuck that, but like people like to make reviews now that are like, well, this didn't take into effect one small piece of society. And it's like, but is it funny?
Yeah, it's funny. John Ralphio's in it from fucking Parks and Rec, and I love that guy in fucking anything. And then John Malkovich is in it, and he's so funny. Steve Carell is like, you know, playing like a military guy, so he's being like this weird emotionalist like dickhead, but it's just so funny because you can see his normalness underneath the surface of it all. Like it's kind of like a parody of a military guy. It's very funny. I think it's all 3 or 4, and then I guess we just got busy and haven't come back to it. Yeah, I mean, I'm not by any means finished with it or anything, but it was just funny. Other than that, I've been doing a Robert Downey Jr. marathon. I watched all the Iron Mans, and I watched all the Sherlock Holmeses, and then I'm kind of randomly watching every movie that has Robert Downey in it.
Oh, you should watch Hugo Pool. It's fantastic.
Maybe I will.
I'm not even kidding. It's like a really good indie movie he's in.
I will.
Alyssa Milano's in it. Alyssa Milano might be topless in that movie, Joe. It's worth your time.
All right. Well, that's sold.
Yeah, but it's pretty good.
I'm in my late 30s, early 40s. Topless, I'm in.
It's Alyssa Milano. You son of a bitch.
You said Melissa Milano.
I reset it, what I was saying. I didn't step away.
No, it actually, like, I was just like, oh, good. I want to see her boobs. And then I was like, oh, this was a good movie.
That's a fantastic review. I watched it for the boobs, stayed for the movie. 1 star.
5 stars. I used to own it and not for the boobs. I rented it and then I watched it. I was like, oh, that was fantastic. I'm going to buy that.
That should be a review. I used to own it and not for the boobs.
Simply because of merit.
Yeah.
And anyway, we already talked about playing because I play the exact same things Tom is playing. So let's move the fuck on.
Covered that. Spoiler warning?
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
this is our episode. Spoiler warning. Actually, I don't know what to say about the boob. Spoiler warning. Hugo Pool is not the best movie with Alyssa Milano's boobs in it. That would actually be Embrace of the Vampire. So this is our episode covering The Great Hunt, written by Robert Jordan. The prologue through chapter 2.
The Great Hunt.
That is
Did you guys ever see Embrace of the Vampire with Alyssa Milano? It's fantastic. We could do a whole special podcast on that if you want.
I'm looking it up right now.
No.
It's really good.
Incognito move.
All right, you ready for a prologue recap?
Yeah.
I wrote Boars. That was it.
You son of a bitch.
That's the whole thing.
In the shadow, and then the man called Boars is the perspective.
Yeah. It's White Cloak in the Teleran Riyadh getting instructions from Ishmael on what to do with Random Vampire. Along with many other... What would we assume they're all high-ranking Dark Friends?
Yes.
Or do you think they run the gamut?
I think there's some lower-ranking ones, too.
No, they've got to be either high-ranking or in highly useful places.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Otherwise, just
because it's like an honor. It's an honor just to get instruction from him. So like they wouldn't let some dreams, like right? Assholes in there. I assume so.
So they're all there in the flesh.
It's another dream shard. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're there in the flesh too.
Which is supposed to like be very bad for you. They're already dark. Like their soul's already dark. And now just being there is going to make it darker.
Yeah. I wrote 100 black masks. That's rackest.
I'm not going to, I have no follow-up for that.
Your wife is mixed. Get her opinion.
Her opinion on it is mixed.
The way he describes like the room being like constructed as if it was a palace but the person didn't really pay attention to the details, to me makes it seem like it's Teleran Riyadh.
Yeah, no, it's definitely Teleran Riyadh, the dream shard thing. Yeah.
But I feel like he's there physically because he changed his clothes and he did all this stuff and he went in and...
Well, you can enter the dream world physically.
Yeah.
Also, this is also before some of these rules were defined, obviously. It's a no-win situation for us to really try to dig into this and get concrete answers.
So
I feel like you could also just like make maybe this room literally does exist in the shadow of Sheol, and the doorways were literally just like gateways or something, and you just walk through and you don't know.
The pattern is there.
I mean, you would have to make 100 different gateways and put a fake door in front of them and tie them
You don't think
balgazamaman
can do that?
The second the person walked through the fake door, you'd have to untie the gateway so they couldn't turn around and see it.
No, you just close the fake door. Or the door. And they don't know.
Listen here, Tom. Fuck you.
Do you think he was putting that together and...
Wait, you wouldn't have to untie... You wouldn't have to close the gateway? Because if you look back through a gateway, it's not like it's the ways. You just see the other side of the gateway.
Yeah. Like, this scheme is so complex. Like,
just to make a secret meeting place. He does all this. He does all this shit, and Summer Age is just like, why did you just make it in Teleran? Fucking son of a bitch.
Ishmael's been alive for millennia, but he still has never lost that flair for his showmanship. That's what really matters.
I love this idea. Let's keep going with this. Jono, your thoughts? You've been very quiet and waiting patiently.
Where do you want me to start? You want to talk about the artwork at the beginning of the book?
Oh, do we want to talk about the artwork again?
The answer is no.
I know I don't.
It's the worst artwork in the series.
You literally said that same thing 10 years ago. Why do you
I
think
know.
this is the worst artwork in all this?
Seriously?
Book 6 is so much worse. For just on the top of my head.
Look at Loyal. Look at Celine.
Yeah.
Loyal looks like a
And-
vampire with weird ears.
Dude, even the next book, Dragon Reborn, has Perrin there with a furry, sleeveless vest and a bandana on. I mean,
That's
he looks-
awesome.
And he also looks
It
12
is
years old.
awesome. It is awesome, but it's not really the character.
Loyal is barely taller than Celine.
Perrin on the Dragon Reborn cover looks like he came from like the Lost Boys movie.
Maybe he did. Did you read the original version?
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, good point. All right, moving on. Also, I enjoy the dedication of this book. And I probably said that a decade ago.
You
No,
should
I
have
don't
done
think- well,
all.
he might have. I
You
don't
should have
think he
done
did that.
all of this before we said the prologue.
Well,
Yeah.
maybe you should let me know.
We literally had a
We
conversation about it
we
for
had
like
like a
5
5-minute
minutes.
conversation.
Maybe you should let me listen.
I said we bashed the cover art, of course, in my show notes from years ago.
So one
Oh,
of
I
the
also
things
said Lauren talked. That was weird.
don't let that happen. Jesus.
Remember when she used to talk every once in a while? That hasn't happened in so long. I forgot what it was like. She said something out loud, and I was like, "What the hell?
Who the hell's that?
Oh,
Doing what?
Lauren's on the show?"
So one of the that like brief a piece of amusement. I remember reading a long time ago. Like there is like this like the dedication is like to like a whole bunch of people, some of whom we know, like who came to my aid when God walked across the water, for the eye of the world passed over my house. And I remember someone asking like in a live interview, like I saw like the transcript, and he's like, "Is that when you found Jesus?" And he was like, Robert Jordan again was like, "No, dude,
No, fucking idiot! A hurricane.
Yeah, just slammed in my house and ruined my life."
I literally
Close.
knew exactly what he was talking about without even really listening to what you were saying. Word for word.
Yeah, like that makes me laugh every time. Just kind of like,
Is that when you found Jesus? No, it's a fucking hurricane came over.
yeah, kind of did the opposite briefly, but you know we get past.
Or sort of the same. One could argue.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway,
I mean, not any of us, but one of our viewers, perhaps.
so this is as we talked about the kind of the quintessential. Besides the first prologue, I think this is the most famous. There's only 14 options. Maybe
this one's pretty high up there.
the Dog Friend Social. Can I ask you a question, Tom?
Yeah.
Why do you think he decided to call himself Boris? Like that's not even like a good name.
I don't know. I never
Clearly
thought
they
about
were
it.
about to eat dinner back in Terabon, and they were like, "He's like, what are we having?" They're like, "Bored." He's like,
Maybe
Good
in
name.
case anybody thought or found out that he was a white cloak, they might connect that name with Bornhold. It's like definitely not me.
The man who called himself not Jacob but definitely Dane walked
That
through
would
the
be
party.
actually very funny if that was his logic. And then what he doesn't know is that Dane Bornhold's there as a dark friend, and he calls himself Cars.
Let me ask you another question. Why the alias at all?
My name's
Who is he-
Cars. No,
Who is
Dan.
Who is
No.
he introducing himself to?
Well, there's Balgazamaman.
Yeah, he knows who he is.
Balgazamaman.
There's also Floating Figures of Boys, which is a personal favorite for different reasons.
Anyone that knows like the name Boris also knows who he really is. Like, who is this for?
You think if they had reached out and touched those little boys, that they would have felt it?
Yes.
Yeah, there's a real little boys like Grendel's servants.
Yeah.
There's a lot of interesting shit that happens in this prologue, but for me, like, the most important thing is that it kind of like, we saw a few things in the first book where like, it's a big continent, but this is the first time you see politics. Not that it's really politics, but you see that there's pieces happening all around the world, at least like the idea of it. And like you see different cultures, you see different assumptions that dark friends are kind of, ubiquitous in all these countries and cultures. And then you also see how fucking dumb they are, because instead of embracing each other and just saying, hey, guess what? If there's 100 of us, we'll each rule 1%. It's instead, I don't fucking trust you at all.
They want it all.
Yeah.
It is classic bad guy.
They're evil.
They're not trying to scheme against each other as well as the good guys.
They're not in it to split up the pie evenly.
Listen, it's why Cobra Commander and Destro could never get their shit together, Jono. They were always fighting each other. Classic. Bors is dressed on all black wool that's draped to the floor, raggest.
It's gonna be hot.
He's also like stooped over and like making like, again, if you see someone who's 6'2", what are you gonna do with it?
Maybe he just doesn't want to give them any clues whatsoever as to who.
If you're just like, look, there can't be more than 20,000 people on the planet that are 6'2".
Removing my problem.
He's also surrounded himself with people that if they found out even an inkling that he was a dark friend, he would be tortured and murdered. As opposed to run out of town or something.
Unless you drop your driver's license, no one's gonna fuck out.
Huge mistake, Victor Pulak.
Shit.
Honestly, I
gets back to his room and he puts on his shepherd or his sunburst with a shepherd cloak, and then he's where's my wallet?
Then he goes out to buy beer, and they're like, we're gonna use your ID, and he's like, I got it right here, right.
Oh no.
Oh,
I left it in the shadow of Gold.
Yeah. He's got to call the front desk at the Dream Palace to see if anybody has turned it in.
I left it in the shadow of Sheo Gold. What'd you just say? Nothing.
I said, what in the shadow of Sheo is hellish. It's hellish.
Yeah.
I could see, honestly, like at this point now, I feel like Jeff Goldblum could do a great, like, where did I leave my driver's license? Like, I could just see him like.
They should just cut. So he's Jack McCarran, you're saying? Fantastic.
Guess we just cast that. We just cast that part.
Jono, do we know who all these people are?
We know a lot.
Why would you be an evil tinker?
Yeah, it's a great question.
Obviously, Tom, you want to rule the Tinkers.
Why would you want an evil tinker on your team? Like, just no thanks.
Maybe they can get places
because
they're allowed to go places.
And why would the tinker be in disguise? It's not going to be like, oh, if the other tinkers find out who I am, they're going to kill me. They're not going to do shit.
Yeah, they won't attack you at all. Like, they'll just, like,
you kill them. They'll just stand there.
They'll be like, can you please leave?
Stop,
no, how about I cut your throat open? And they're like,
stop stabbing me.
I'll be very upset about that, but you're welcome to it.
This is a fascinating question, actually. And like the only place that like tinkers have unfettered access to is
you can literally murder us all. We won't stop you.
Over here, and they can go to the waste, but they won't talk to anyone.
I wish we did know who that tinker was, because what is the plan there? Now I am interested.
I suppose it's just to illustrate that there's dark friends everywhere, but it raises more questions than it answers.
Yeah, I think the Active Mirror one is kind of that point too.
You think after this gathering, Ishmael has one planned, like instead of an elaborate doorway thing with a bunch of where the Mirrors will have to kidnap 100 small blonde kids for no fucking reason.
Just to show you how many blonde kids they.
But the next time around, they're just going to do something involving like a lot of pots and pans.
Are you talking about the servants? Are those?
No, he's talking about the fact that Tinker's always like that. But no, the servants are Zamora. We see them in later books.
Oh, okay. So they're like clones with dead eyes.
Yeah,
small hands.
Spawn thing.
So
they're not like human.
Who's here? Is Leandrin at this meeting?
Actually,
she's got to be.
Yeah, she is. We see it from later on that she was at the social. So, of things to talk about, I do enjoy that Bors, Jacob Carradine thinks he's so much smarter than he is. Like when he sees the dead-eyed servant for the first time, the Zamora, he's just kind of like, oh, you thought of something I wouldn't have, that people won't remember things. Dude, I've had 3,000 years that you know of, plus, another 1,000 fucking cycles the Wheel of Time.
Yeah.
Not my first rodeo, you dumb shithead.
That's why this meeting's so elaborately planned. He didn't even have to think about it.
Yeah. But so we've got Ingtar is here.
And then Boris is like, what's a rodeo?
Oh, yeah. And then it feels like, let me tell you. And it's just very
thousands of years from now, or back before. Either way you want to look
maybe
at it.
Maybe you have the Tinker there to be the brightly colored rodeo clown.
That's why we've got the Tinker. They're brightly colored.
Hey, here's a funny note from a tWoTcast from 10 years ago. Episode 5, by the way, for people who gives a shit. Tom said he was young and naive and that a white cloak could be a dark friend. And Jono said that's how he likes his women.
I've changed a lot.
And then we thought it was cool how Carradine basically kind of deduced that it was probably not the dark one and probably a Forsaken, because why the fuck would the dark one like come talk to them in person like this? He's like, you're not the dark one. I'm sure you're very important, but you're not the dark one. Come on.
So of the people, like Tom, you asked, like, who do we see here? We see Ingtar, some Damani Noble, Tinker, which now is like my favorite thing. We see also there's a High Lord of Tyr, which we can assume is Weiramon because we know that he is a dark friend later. But what fascinates me is that, like, of all the things, like, there's only, 7, 8 High Lords? Like, there's not that many. Like, it's a, maybe not fixed amount, but pretty much it's no more than 20.
Of Tyr? I was going to say, it seems like they're endless.
Yeah, I was like, I thought there were a shitload of those guys.
No, there's not many. It just seems like that because, like, it's all based on money, and then when one dies, like, the other ones, they just kind of carve up the other one's fortunes and shit. Not quite. But you're not the least bit concerned. Like this is one of the dudes who rules an entire giant country. Like this is pretty much like I don't know, like a senator or something like that. Like to put it,
well, why would he be concerned?
I mean, not concerned, but interested. Try to like fucking.
Oh, yeah.
I won't look at this noble's ring. Who gives a shit? But like in this case, like you can blackmail the fuck out of someone who's like one of the most powerful persons in like one of the most powerful countries.
Yeah, that could, simple thing like blackmail, giving him extra money to do what he's supposed to be trying to do is a
or you can
big deal.
You blackmail that Tinker for free pot mending.
That's true. And that happens later on, book 14. It was just an edited scene. And then
who do you think the other Aes Sedai is that he sees? Varen?
Alviarium.
Alviarin's kind of although I love the idea of Varen because she'd be someone who kind of like she would get invited and be like, who all have to kill to stay in this club.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go backwards and like some of the people that they encounter in the book were at the meeting, then Varen's a dark friend who was at this meeting. She's with them the whole book doing weird shit.
Could be. Could very well be. That would explain why she's helping like kind of like record some of the stuff that happens later on.
And it could also be one of the 13 that leave with Leandrin when they get ousted, quote unquote, from the tower. It could be anybody, really. Could be Marilyn Gamalfin with all her fucking cats.
And then Trollocs in her.
But, oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot about the Trollocs.
And like we said, it's time to see Ishmael.
Yeah, balgazamaman is alive and addresses them and, tells them they lie in the shadow of Sheol.
And he's all scarred up and burned.
Yeah, I think it's kind of cool. I guess it shows that he is still the same guy that we were seeing in the first book, if we had any doubt. Like, if we believed Rand at all that he had murdered him and this was some sort of imposter, like, all the wounds kind of indicate that he survived and it's still the same dude.
When did you read this prologue? I'm pretty sure I read it at the end of the first book. I feel like.
Like it was kind of one of the together, like a bundle.
Yeah, it was like preview or whatever.
Oh, I know what you're talking
Wheel
about.
of Time.
No,
you're wondering what we just talked about. Hey, who puts one of those things that's on, next time on Lost, and then read the prologue of the next book? It's you.
But it wasn't like it wasn't a preview
next
of like
time on
a snippet
Lost.
from all 50 chapters. It was just literally the first part.
Yeah, that's right. I think the prologue for like book 13 and some later books came out early too, but I chose not to read them. I would always wait to read them when the book came out. So I probably did.
The second they released a prologue online, I was all over it.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, when I read book
Tom,
2, it was already out, so like it's not like I was waiting for book 2. I probably would have read it back then.
I think
I
they
just
did
hadn't
that
had it, but I had it. So
Yeah.
They always put out excerpts, or sometimes they put out the first few chapters before the book would come out.
Yeah.
And I would jump on it.
Agreed. Jump on it.
God damn it. That's good. Well, to your point earlier, Jono, balgazamaman says, if you serve me faithfully, you will sit by my side. And then he shows them the boys.
The boys.
Which I thought was kind of funny. but also just like, stop scheming against each other. Like, if you all just like unmasked and you're like, oh shit, you're that guy? We can team up. We'd be the best dark for a duo. Like, why are they on each other?
Maybe the problem is the coach, because it's not like he's giving them some sort of rousing speech out of unity and teamwork here. He's just like, he doesn't even tell them. He gives them all secret instructions.
Yeah, I wrote
he always furnished the mask.
Balgazamaman used his phone and talks to everyone one at a time.
That's what the Dark One likes. He likes competition between his servants. That's what the Forsaken do all the time.
Yeah, he does.
True.
But these guys aren't going to inherit shit. We know that. Like, even if somehow he were to win, first off, they would all die anyway. But people who can't channel aren't inheriting a goddamn thing.
If you're just going to talk to me only and no one else is going to hear anything and I'm just going to be on the floor, my first question, honestly, is just like, why'd you bring us all here at the same time?
See, that's the point. To do exactly what you were saying. To like seed doubt and make them like wonder who's more powerful than them, and like
it's really just to save himself time.
It's just a big fucking game.
He's sending a group email instead of 100 individual emails.
Yeah. Yeah, but then he takes the time to talk to them individually. Anyway.
He sends an invite to a party.
I guess he sent a group invite and then talk to them one by one like the Godfather.
And make an offer you can't refuse. Because I'll kill you.
What else? I mean, it's hard for me to talk about this. I've read it 1,000 times. So I'm like, what's interesting? And I'm like, actually, a lot of things, but also
with images is cool.
Yeah, I think that honestly, what's fascinating here to me is, again, it's really your first kind of multicultural perspective. It's your first thing from a dark friend. It's your first viewpoint from someone who's not a protagonist, and like you see a way different point of view for the entire series, as well as the fact that you see someone pointed at your main characters in a negative manner.
It's the first dark friends we've seen that aren't like random villagers.
Yeah, like these are the people who have some sort of sophistication, kind of.
And like you we've kind of touched on it a couple of times already, but it's like showing the Aes Sedai that there actually is dark friend Aes Sedai, like showing that when he walks out and he's a white cloak, it's a big fucking deal. Like
that white cloak.
Like, the end reveal there is like the payoff.
Yeah,
and then just the fact that they show a Shenarian like sets up some danger in the next chapters.
That's also a very good point. Yeah. Like honestly,
and he goes out of his way to be like, he's clearly a soldier because of these reasons. Like it's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, the 3 reveals actually are.
That's every Shenarian
soldier. We've got a white cloak, and we got a Aes Sedai. Those are all kind of shit. None of those are supposed to. All 3 of those are supposed to be in service to the light by definition.
Why do you keep leaving out the Tinker?
So when he gets those like images flooded into his mind, and then they start to slip away, and he can't remember them, and like balgazamaman is like, well, some commands aren't even meant to be known by the person that's carrying them out. That's obviously compulsion, correct?
Some form of. But what's interesting is like the pieces that we saw, like. Don't all.
He's just putting a delayed voicemail in his brain for later. The Manchurian candidate.
His whole mission never comes off. He keeps getting redirected by every other dark friend and Forsaken that there is.
That's what I was going to say. It's like, it doesn't say like you will then drown in a barrel of brandy. Like, push that in my brain.
Yeah. He doesn't come anywhere close to finishing what was started here.
Yeah, that's true. So the servant brings him back to his room, and then the servant can weirdly read his mind, which I thought was creepy. And he's like, "You can change now," and he just stands there and looks at him.
He's like, "I want to see your dick now. I'm ready for it."
He's like, "No one will see you change."
This is what I was
Sheridan
promised.
secretly wants it to look
Which
at his-
mirrors Rand in the next couple of chapters.
Yes.
No one will see you change, but me. Give me all your clothes. I'll burn them for you.
I want to burn your clothes.
Yeah, but it's revealed that he's a White Cloak, and then he's like, great work is to be done on Terravon and the Almouth Plain, which is kind of a fucking badass end of that goddamn prologue.
And also really important for the end of this book about what the fuck's going on. Like, those were his 3 orders, were like, kind of, don't fuck with the Shan-Chan. Keep sowing distaste or discord. There we go. Right word. And then look out for these 3 Taviran.
So here's our drunken prologue recap from one of our longtime listeners at Willie Stickman on Twitter. And we're going to listen to it and comment on it as we go along.
Ding, 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 ding.
All right, ready, boys?
Yes. Joe, let's get to it.
Jesus Christ, you got a library?
Those are comics.
Holy shit, dude, that's fucking cool. Wow.
Yeah,
all my boxes are, or all my, here we go. All my books are in fucking boxes.
Off to a good start. Well,
fucking right.
A good start.
And I got fucking pinned down. Fucking.
I don't feel a need to pause it.
I was trying to do more, but my kids are out riding their horses, and they're pretty little, but I think they're doing okay. I started reading Wheel of Time. I started reading Tolkien in 9th grade, of course. And I was a total fucking nerd on that. And then my cousin got me into Dragonlance.
Yeah.
And I was a bigger total fucking nerd on that for a few years. And then my other cousin said, try out Wheel of Time. And I was like, cool. And holy shit. Yeah, Wheel of Time blew everything out of the water for me. I love the way he wrote. I love the way he made his characters interact with one another. Just badass. I can't even count how many times I've read the first 11 books. I can count how many times I've read the last 3.
Yeah, so I guess you're going to be drunkenly telling us about the prologue of The Great Hunt. Well,
yes, sir.
Stickman.
God damn it, Willie Stickman will get through this. It's only a 30-minute chapter because you have no idea how many times I've listened to this motherfucker.
Is this not what you guys are doing?
2 weeks.
And that's good. You just memorize it, and then you can convey it drunkenly. That's exactly what we want.
I took fucking notes, yo.
All right, now take your notes, crumple them up, throw them in the garbage.
Yeah, I'm turning into Jono Branaja here, which I relate to him because I fucking love the maps, and you have no idea how many times I've read the first fucking 7 books. It's crazy. But
I find an annoying amount of our viewers really love Jono's Branaja-ness, and it drives me insane.
all right,
Stop giving him a reason. Just keep telling us about maps.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, no, meander all you want. It's fine.
In this map, no, I don't want to keep to the cool. And this is kind of a cool prologue. You know, it's fucking. I kind of read into a lot of shit about this, and then I actually think back about it, and I'm like, well, no, that fucker. Like David Hanlon, fucking. All right. Hold on, I'll get there.
No, the master rapist.
All right, prologue in the shadow. Yes, the master fucking rapist.
So,
he is. Well, I wonder if Hake. Well, as you guys said before, Hake and those guys and his boys were pretty fucking amateur. They fucking
yeah, they don't know what they're doing. They're the masters.
Our song and all that. You fuckers are funny. Starts out with a man called Bors. We all know who that. Should you say spoiler warning, or do you get?
Oh no,
that when you guys re-record.
It's long been said already.
Yeah. All right. Well, he wakes up and about it. Fucking, he's in this place and he gets told it's in the Shadow Shale Ghoul, which I've always wondered whether he was brought there physically somehow or if that was fucking actually Tellurian Riyadh. I would think that was probably it, especially with the weirdo fucking servants, you know, they're all clones and shit. Jason Carradine, or I guess I shouldn't say that, spoiler. Boris, he's in his black mask and he's all covered in a cape, basically. I wanted to put that on there into the show because I love that fucking show. I've only got to watch 3 episodes so far because I'm so busy, but it's getting there. He's in there and he's dismissively judging all these other dark friends in there, and some of them are swathed and shit, and some of them aren't. And I think we get to see a few of our future people in here. Certainly, I believe Ingtar is the Shinaran with the blue coat. I don't know about that. But some of this shit, you know, I don't think it's right either. You see a guy wearing golden spurs of Andor, and I instantly think Master Rapist David Hanlon. But he was too soon. I know he wasn't in the Queen's Guard yet till fucking Robin got him in there. So I was like, fucking, I just always try. I've always tried to identify these people ever since I was. I do have a note here said he wasn't promoted yet. We got a tinker wearing a yellow coat and green pants, which sounds like Aram to me, but I doubt that because it's. I kind of think. I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure he was compulsed by Grendel.
I feel like if it was Aram, he would have mentioned how beautiful he was.
Maybe
that guy's hot.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Apparently, yeah.
I mean, apparently, I've never seen him.
He sounds like Matt McConaughey or some shit. I don't know. Hey, man.
He's like
Gween,
30 years too old.
You're looking pretty fine right there, Gween. Why don't you come over and dance? Oh my god,
it would be fantastic. Holy shit, they should cast him. You nailed it.
Screw that yellow-eyed bastard and come dance with me. He'd be cool. Yeah. I feel like we saw Torum reacting to the fucking My Lord because he had silver work boots. I never could figure out, and I haven't figured out because they don't say it there. He speaks about a Erdemani woman who's a Demani bloodborne, which do we ever hear that again? I don't think I've ever heard that again.
I mean,
even in book like 12 or something, he never spends much time in Erdemon. But I'm kind of a purist on the terms too, actually, because some of the shit that Sir Anderson said in the later books, you're like, never mind, I don't want to get into that. I'm sorry.
Leave Susan Sarandon out of this.
I will. I'm sorry. I'm not getting on here to rant. Let me check. Oh yeah, kids are still cool. Yeah. By the way, I'm sitting in my wife's fucking CRV drinking beer in the air conditioning, so I'm not sitting in the house. She took my truck to go pick up a new horse, and kids are outside, and I just like drinking beer in my car.
What time was
that? Sounds, I mean, totally normal.
My wife's car. Yeah, that's totally.
How many horses do you own? Well,
we have 4.
Oh, and you're getting a 5th.
4 horses. Yes, we will be getting a 5th horses.
All right, back to the prologue. Go.
Yeah. All right. So we get into the place where they are, lies in the Shadow Shale Ghoul. We already saw that. And he starts throwing up an image of the boys, the Trollocs and the the fades come out, the trollocs come out, and then the fade comes out, and the fade's all, get on your bellies, worms, and he's pissed off, and contemptful of them. I would like to bring up that I think this is the same fucking fade that has failed time and time again, because I will get into that here in a little bit, because he's pissed off and acting like a badass now, but he acts like a little bitch here in a little bit. They throw up some images of the boys. They put up Matt first, and he calls him the trickster. They throw up Perrin second, and he decides he's the blacksmith, and the golden eyes throw him for a loop. And then balgazamaman's image comes out, and he's got balgazaman's image comes out first, and then he places these guys, and he's talking to him about it, and what the hell was that? God damn it. I wasn't even drunk at work, and my writing's terrible. Let's get to it.
Yeah.
Boris is pissed off because he finds out he's probably not going to be a dreadlord because he's the balgazaman, or Ishmael, whoever it is, says it will happen in this age or another, turning Rand, because he said either he dies or we turn him to the dark side. Or I shouldn't do that. I just outed myself as a Star Wars guy. But yeah. If we can change him, if we can turn him, yes. If not, fucking kill him. And then it gets into the weird mental implanting. He starts moving around the room, sucking people's heads in. Well, not sucking people's heads in, fucking just go picking them up and holding them. They're twitching back. God damn. That's sounding bad.
Good. That's good. Just sucking people's heads in.
Sucking people's heads in. And putting shit in the back of their heads that they don't know that's there. Yeah, that's always a good time. So he's given instructions that says some commands are too important to know.
Right, yeah.
Tells them and tells Boars to, I like Boar, sounds like horse. Tells them to keep the Shankan on the down low. Doesn't want people knowing about them while they start raising hell. And then he starts he says, do you understand? And so Boris pulls a Costanza and just nods because he doesn't know what the fuck he's saying. And as he's talking about it, he's like, I don't know what he's saying. My good works on the Alma's plane and Turban. Image of a girl in white fading into black. I kind of feel like this is to use Jono's parlance, just because she features prominently in him drowning to death in that fucking carrot and cask shot that he takes at the end with David Hanlon there.
Yeah. That's rapist.
I don't, yeah, master rapist. Totally. I mean, that fucker, he takes pride in his craft. Fucking. And by the by, your use of the word bent mirrors mine, Joe, because I fucking, as soon as I heard that word, I place that in my vocabulary and I use it all the time.
I don't use it as much as I should.
I use it constantly, and people look at me and are like, what does that mean? I'm like,
what the fuck is bent?
If only you knew. If only you fucking knew.
It's for the people who know, you know?
Yeah.
If you understand what I'm saying when I say fucking bent, then maybe you're not so much of a bent.
Right. Imagery fades. Old Boars loses it. He's kind of pissed off because the weird clone kids, servants, can read his fucking mind, which I thought was weird. And I hadn't paid attention to that in a while, actually. I remember thinking about that a few years ago, but it was like, how the fuck can they read his mind? I don't even know what they come from. I think originally I thought that they were people that got their souls pulled out when they were making new blades in Thakandar.
Oh, that's a great idea.
I don't know. Of course, there's no evidence to support that, but that was just something I thought about back when I was drinking beer.
Jono probably knows.
Idea. Probably. Karen's pissed off because the servant seems to be able to read his mind, because the servant says, our master, and smiles at him when he, I'm rambling. Then he gets back into his room, and he's pretty happy that nobody fucked with his saddlebags. And
Yeah. That he can tell.
yeah, right. So Bors opens his saddlebags and takes his whites out and takes his blacks off. And does that sound rackist?
That's pretty rackist.
It kind of does. I fucking care.
He takes off his blackface.
Yeah.
Gets out his white hood.
Then he talks about praising the dark one in the Dome of Truth. That is totally rackist, fucker. Yeah. And then he says there's great work to be done in Arabon and the Almas Plain. Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, deck yeah, fuck yeah.
Deck yeah, fuck yeah.
Hey man, thanks. Thanks for all three of us, even though they're not here. I'm sure they'll be dying laughing when they hear this. And thanks for your Twitter presence on the show.
I doubt it. I did. I should have been on more. I should have been better on point, man. Yeah, but I'm glad to be included. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, man. Thanks for all your comments and thanks for being with us all this time.
All right.
That was
So I'll
fantastic.
start off because fuck Tom. I fucking love Willie Stickman. Just in general, he's been a follower for fuck if I know, I don't know, 9 years, which is the weirdest sentence I think I've said in a while. Besides, I had sex. That always confuses me. But like, he's always just been like funny, fun, and like support, which doesn't seem like they should be together because they should be the opposite. And I'll be honest, his voice, I don't know, like maybe it's because he's obviously broadcasting from a CRV and drinking beer in the AC, and that's a sentence. Like he sounds like someone who is like ready to count down for the next like fucking Apollo mission in the 70s.
He went into more detail of like what he was doing and where he was drinking, and it was pretty funny. But he was basically watching his young children ride around on horses while he was in his fucking car just drinking beers. And I'm like, you're a good father.
I didn't realize he was doing bits from the show when he kept saying horses, and I was like, this is hilarious.
No, of course. He did like 7 bits from the show. Like everything, he kept randomly saying like, oh, I'll pronounce it this way because that's how they do it. It was pretty funny.
I fucking loved it. It also made me feel like we should probably change our lives because unfortunately someone at least briefly changed his own nomenclature, pronunciation, and all that for this. And I'm like, oh, dude, you don't want to pick us.
We should just get him, have him drink half a bottle of vodka and give us 30-second recaps of every single chapter of The Dragon Reborn for the next book. Like, rest.
Just have him, I'll just do like, just do 30 seconds.
Yes. Just be like, what happens in chapter 1? What happens in chapter 2? That's all you have to do.
I really like when he said swathed in shit because that was hilarious because it was so random.
Agreed. Tom, I think we may be onto something as a funneling money mechanism too. Is if he donates, let's pretend we're a 501c3, we're not. So if he donates the money, which we didn't repurchase alcohol for him to do the show, and we have him do the bulk of the actual what the fuck happened, and then we just have dumb jokes over it. This could be a money-making scheme for everyone. He's got a low tax bracket. Like everything is going on here.
I'll let you figure that out.
I really liked his pronunciation of balgazamaman.
It was just literally balgazamaman. But it sounded like he was going to say balsacamon. Which, by the way, Balshear. Maybe we should just change his name to Balgazamaman.
And when Ishmael popped in and just started sucking people's heads in, that was a good point. It was a solid point. Something we didn't bring up in our recap.
That reminds me of some tight pussy. That feels like that.
The thought that Aram was a dark friend was kind of interesting. I was like, huh. I mean, there's no evidence of that, but he does turn quite crazy later.
No, he turns very good, which is unfortunately bad. That's not his fault.
Oh, gotcha.
No, I actually, what's funny is like clearly he did a little bit of research, and that sounds offensive. Clearly he did research about like kind of. That also sounds offensive. Clearly, he knows what the fuck's going on. Jesus Christ. Let let me slap you once, twice, 3 times a lady, which is what I call my penis. Because he knows like what the fuck's going on about, and I don't think I'd ever really consider the idea that maybe it's Torm Rioton, or maybe I had and I just don't remember because fuck me, we've done this a lot. That maybe that's Torm Rioton there from. I feel like we would have known because there should have been fights. I
like the idea that, I mean, I've certainly never put much thought into who most of those people are. Aside from like Leandrin's obviously there, or like I just kind of the ones that we know, like I've never actually like gone back and looked at the prologue and been like, who's this person? Let me see from the clues if I can actually figure it out. I just kind of waited for the story to tell me like, oh, that person is a dark friend. I'm like, oh, I wonder if they're at the thing.
I've never spent a ton of time trying to figure that out either.
It's weird to do because like I remember, let's see, 2004. What book was that? 2004. I think it was probably just book 10, or maybe only book 9. Is when I kind of really got into like, I went from like, not just, I was beyond casual fan pretty much at book 1, but when I went from like, I really enjoy reading this to, and like I'll reread every time a book comes out to, I want to know everything. And I remember like looking around and like, finding out weird resources that were out there. And I wanted to spend 0 time on them. Like I did not love that Fury culture, but I did love like where they had, like already, hey, this is what it appears to be. Like I don't want to read 18 theories on who you think like Logain may have been.
But it's interesting when someone actually takes the time to gather the facts up and goes like, this is what happened. It's not like it's a theory. It's more like they take the time to put the clues together.
Way more interested than in, hey, I figured this out, instead of like, hey, this is what I think. I'm like, no.
Yeah. Because I'll tell you what I think. I think that I'm about to get really drunk.
Oh, sounds good.
Check back.
All right, well, that was Willie Stickman's version of the prologue.
It's a great version. Willie Stickman, we love you, we salute you, and I can't wait for you to
fantastic.
Have all those horses. And I mean, look, if anyone, that's probably the best recording from the back of a CRV I've had.
What are you going to do riding around in a CRV drinking beer with 5 horses? It's going to be fantastic.
My wife, so she's got I think it's an 02 CRV.
Yeah.
And that's not even a joke.
You could have compared models. Where do you get drunk? Tell me where you're sitting. I know exactly where that cup holder is.
All right, chapter 1. Thomas?
What's the title of chapter 1?
The Flame of Tar-Valon. It's a red POV.
All right, I just fixed this in my notes. I'm going to read you what I fixed it to and then tell you what it inexplicably said before that. So Rand and Lan are practicing the sword. They talk about his sword, and Lan is wondering why he's still in Faldara, and then the Maryland arrives. For some reason, I wrote Matt and Lamb instead of Rand and Lan.
Just Matt and Lamb?
Yeah. Lamb, does it have a B?
No. I pulled it up to read it, and I was like, Matt and Lamb.
What we don't know is that's what Matt's doing in this chapter.
We read about
a lamb down in the barnyard.
Yeah, we read about Rand and Lan, but something else is also going on with Matt and Lamb.
You can take the farm boy out of the farm, but you can't take the farm boy out of the boy.
That's pretty brief, though. It's them practicing. I guess they kind of allude to the fact that Tan is not his dad, and talk about his power rod sword, and the wind, of course, does something crazy, and then the Maryland suit arrives. It's always weird to me, just jumping ahead to her, like what a fucking event it was when she gets deposed, and then like just being in the Shadow Rising right now, I'm like, we barely even knew this chick, and then she was gone. As a Maryland suit, anyway.
It's true. It is fast. Although it is kind of cool seeing the prequel book spell that out. I feel like that's why in my memory, I feel like we have longer time with her as like her and Morena as friends, and them as a Maryland. Because
it was like a ground shaking event.
Yeah.
And then 10 books later, I'm just like, oh, I guess you're a lady.
I guess you're a lady.
Yeah, I guess you're around. I always liked Suan later. After she gets stilled.
Yeah. No, I think that she's a very interesting character, a very useful character. And also, I think the thing that's supposed to be important about her is that, and it's kind of obvious, is the fact that she's not negatively predisposed to Rand or, his agenda as Dragon Reborn. And therefore, someone supplanting that is going to have the opposite thought process.
Yeah. I always liked her and then got like weirdly invested in the romance between her and Brian for some reason. Like I was like, I really want this to happen.
I'm not laughing at what you're saying. I saw a note I forgot to read. Tom said that Ishmael was probably the most powerful Asian on Earth since they were locked away. And then Jono said, "Did you say Asian?" and I think, and then you're like, "No, I said this, but now I don't remember what you said because I didn't write it down."
Probably Forsaken.
I'm probably Forsaken.
Most powerful Asian.
Balgazaman's like the most powerful Asian on the Earth since they were locked away. Anyway, yeah, back to so the Wind tries to murder Rand with a stick.
Yeah, that's a cool little, first real bubble of evil we see.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, yeah.
And not only that, couldn't have happened at a worse time of him, I'm going to try to avoid these, swords coming at me. Oh, nope, just going to jump right into it. Again, would be shitty timing to be against an actual fight.
It reads a little weird.
In what way?
I don't know. It just didn't sell it for me. This is I don't understand what's happening here. There's nothing like being on a podcast and having a problem with something, but not being able to explain it.
Yeah,
that's all I got.
Well, you can take a minute to figure it out. Wait, what are you having a problem with?
I don't know, the way it seems to happen in slow motion, but it doesn't happen in slow motion for Lan, and
I think it's just so he can describe what's happening.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I just think it reads a little strange.
Well, being a bubble of evil later on, when Matt's fighting time gets warped. Like when Matt's fighting the playing cards in book 4. Yeah. Anyway, that time all slows down and he's whipping knives and then all the coins are just hanging in the air from when he kicked the table back. It's just, everyone else blinked and there's a bunch of cards pinned to the wall when he was seeing them climb out and grow.
So when you're in the bubble, time is moving normally and it's moving slowly for everybody else outside of it.
Maybe, yeah.
That makes more sense. That's never really very clearly spelled out, but it does. Well,
not even necessarily it even happens every time per se.
Yeah, I think Joe has done something amazing called he managed to pull a great kind of parallelism that may or may not be true, but we can absolutely go with it because it makes sense of the narrative. And why not?
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, let's do that last one. Let's just run with it.
Yeah. So
time doesn't make sense in a bubble of evil necessarily. Yeah, and there is evidence of that later.
I think it's quite clear. It happens in book 4, as Joe said. God damn it, Tom was reading.
So Rand finds out his sword is power rod. I do want the story of how Tam got this fucking sword.
Well, we know how he gets
the literally sword. Said that to me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh man, it's so funny how many times I'm so glad I go back and listen to the old show because it's so funny how often we say the same fucking thing.
We have nothing new to say.
I mean, it just means that we're having the same thought as you're reading the book and you're wanting the same thing when you read a scene. It's not that strange. You said, why did he put it in the chest and never use it again? And then when he fights, he never uses it. He just uses a bow and arrow for the rest of the books. Which is a solid fucking point.
What else here? Just the Maryland, or?
Well, did you want to remember?
Quick? He's pissed about Moraine ignoring him. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jono.
No. Did you want Tom to have a refresher of how that sword ended up in Tam's hands?
Actually, that's a good idea, Jono, because we did not remember that.
Yeah, I don't remember that at all.
What happened is, again, it's not 100% clear because there's some stuff that happens in, I think, either 13 or 14. I forget what was out at the time. That kind of sheds more light on the fact that Tam actually had to, he had to duel one of his fellow companions because he was in the...
he went to the Alien.
Yeah, and he was in the Companions, which is the elite guard of Ilion, which can be made up of commoners, those disgusting swine. as long as they're good enough. And like he got into a fight with someone who he was challenged by someone who was a blade master, and that's how he got
in the books or in like one of the encyclopedias or something.
I don't remember. No, I don't.
I think he briefly. I think book 13 sounds right, Jono, and it might even be 14.
If it was 13, we would have known
13.
The first time around we did this.
True. However, I think, but we might not have remembered because we only read the book like once at that point. I think book 13, he says it's when he's hanging out with Rand, like when they're like dad and son again, kind of thing. If I'm not mistaken, I think he like kind of gives a little backstory of what he was doing in the Companions. But Tom's right. Maybe it is just in an encyclopedia or something, and you remember it because you've read all that shit.
So I found it. In the conversation, Tam mentions killing a blade master because it needed to be done.
Oh, which conversation?
I don't. I just Googled.
Oh, you don't know. Oh, okay.
Which, by the way, thank God that How Did Tam Get His Sword actually came up with real fucking. That's insane.
Well, I guess we'll know more of that later.
Apparently, Robert Jordan indicated during the 1994 Q&A session that Sam was given the sword by the King of Ilion.
Well, given the sword and earning the Blade Master thing could be two different things, though.
According to WhatFandom.com.
Twat.
Which I would take that with a grain of salt, but.
True. Also, it's kind of fun that we have the ability to like instantaneously check the internet, whereas back then we were like
whereas 10 years ago there was no internet.
No, it was there, but there wasn't as much resources back then.
It was not as much resources.
Yeah, there wasn't as much shit online.
It was not as robust.
Yeah. The Muriel arrives, and you should be a week gone, and Lan leaves. What do you have, Jono? You have more?
No, that's it. She shows up.
Well,
that ends the chapter.
What hurts to me is the fact that he's like, I could give you, if you give me 5 more years, I could make you a blade master. Which I'm like 5 months at most.
I really like how Lan's like, you're right, you should be a week gone, and then just leaves down the ladder. He's like, what a dick move.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, you're fucked now. Oh,
it's pretty. Moraine got back last night. Yeah.
You're lucky you're on top of the tower in order to see them coming from like a mile away.
And waste time.
Not really, because it didn't make any difference.
Yeah. All right. Before we move on, here's our drunken recap of chapter 1 and not so drunken, really, from Peter in Australia, one of our also longtime listeners.
Good morning.
Hey, Peter, how's it going, man?
Captain Morgan says hello.
Fantastic. Look at that little can. That's a weird thing.
It still has the same content as the 375ml cans.
Yeah.
But sometimes I just need the taste without all the cola. So
fair enough. Anyway, hi. It's Peter, everybody.
G'day, everyone. I'm not American.
It's Peter. You're Australian. What time is it there, by the way?
Let me look. It's 9:31 a.m.
9:31. And what are you doing?
I am drinking Captain Morgan and cola.
And this is your commitment.
It's my commitment.
It's drinking 9:30 in the morning.
Look, it's especially for you. I'm getting my Denzel Washington, flight. I'm drunk now. I'm drunk right now. On for you because it's my day off, and it actually makes sense because I only get 1 day off a week. Makes sense to do this, in the morning.
Yeah, might as well get started.
Right.
Get started now, and then you'll be good to go.
Exactly, I'll be right for tomorrow.
Yeah, you'll have plenty of time to recover. You'll be totally fine tomorrow.
Exactly.
So, we already kind of talked spoilers, everybody. But so I know how Peter is doing, but for the benefit of our viewers, there aren't really
dealing with they're viewers.
How are you doing?
I can see the cameras behind you. I'm doing well. It's obviously it's a very strange world we're dealing with right now. But I'm doing well because no matter whether it's in person or it's, via Zoom, or whether it's, me ringing people up on the phone or dealing with email, like, we can still be connected with each other. Right. So I don't think any isolation has stopped us, feeling connected. So I'm feeling fine with that. Obviously, we're not in as precarious a situation as some other countries, maybe in the Northern Hemisphere, are dealing with right now. Right. But we're actually quite safe here. COVID-19 hasn't been so bad here in Australia. So, it's not too bad.
Warm weather.
Struggling with opening up.
So, Peter, you're going to give us a drunken review of The Great Hunt, chapters 1 and 2. But before we get there, maybe tell us about yourself a little bit, but not too much. As much as you're allowed to reveal.
Absolutely. I think I'll reveal more as we go through the chapters, I think. But for
people
me,
just figure it out.
Well, it's comes in the territory as we cover the topics in there. No, like for me, I started reading this now. If we think it's probably about 15 years ago, that I only got introduced to Wheel of Time about 15 years ago. So it's at a much more truncated, sort of schedule than, some of you,
Right.
So I started reading probably in the mid, 2000s.
Yeah.
And well, this is the thing. For me, it was back then, and a lot of the books are already out. But dealing with, I always found it difficult to talk about how I began with it, because some people say, I picked up the first book and it got into it straight away and couldn't put it down. For me, I found, this might be heretical to say, but the prologue of the first book with the palace walls shaking, it took me ages to get through that. I thought, what the hell is this? It didn't get me.
I did the same thing. I'm sure I've said this on the podcast before, but I did the same thing.
Where I really got into it was all those moments at the end of the first book. Literally, not the big action moments, but literally that moment, or some of the moments that you disagree with, you as a group of three disagree with the heaviness, the importance of those moments of actually discovering the eye of the world. Like having the grave is no bar to my call moment. Like,
that episode will come
that's
out on
the moment.
Friday.
That was the moment. If I could pinpoint a moment that I was sucked in totally, it was that.
Yeah.
That Loyal opening the chest and having that moment. And then
like objects of mystery and import, like, revealed to you was like a very huge incentive to keep going.
More the scale.
Jono, why do you keep holding up your finger?
It was a mental thing for me. It kind of makes me think, and real quickly, I don't want to take much time.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
It makes me think of like Peter has said something that it kind of doesn't apply to the three of us that we may have missed. Is like, what happened? Like, you're a fan who comes on later, right? Like, think about fandom from that, 4 different angles, right? Think about fandom kind of almost not all of, the three of us, we came in around like the mid 90s, right? Probably somewhere in between 95, 97 of, so books somewhere depending on 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, when did you start reading, Tom?
Like 92, 3. Yeah.
So book 2 and 3 were already out. 1 and 1.
Yeah, 2, 3, and 1. That's how you would put those in order.
Yeah, I know. No, I mean, it's, that's how that goes. But and Joe, you started reading when book 6 was out, or book 5? I started reading book 7 was out. Book 6 and book 7 had just come out.
Well, I started reading in 94, but I didn't really by the time I caught up, book 6 had just come out. I think that's what you're thinking of.
Yeah. And imagine coming up, so I guess we'll go with Tom as the oldest because, Tom is the oldest. So live from then, which by the way, fuck that 3 decades of this shit. I've had 2.5. And, but kind of starting off early and then starting off because I always felt like book 7 was a late year book, which is, by the way, halfway through the goddamn series. But imagine coming in book 9, book 10 time frame where a lot of mysteries are already solved, a lot of things are already out there, and then he dies.
Yeah.
It's a very bizarre.
That's interesting. My thought when he was going over this was, and I cut a lot out of what I said during these conversations, so it would just be them talking. But like, I think the thing that I took away was like when he was like, I've been reading for 15 years. It's like there's some 15-year-olds that are just starting. You know, like that's like the next. You know what I mean? Like that's a long time. You know, like we've been reading for 20.
That's a more depressing take on it. Yeah, goddamn,
well, 25 years since we started, so there's probably some.
Man. Yeah.
You know, 10 years ago there was some 15-year-old that picked up the book that's been like, I've been reading for 10 years, and I'm like, I've been reading for 25. Oh my god, you know, like kind of thing. Like, and that's a different whole take on that idea.
Holy
you know, like
shit.
it's just, like, and the whole thing is out. You know, so it's really it is interesting to hear when different people jumped on and like what their take was.
It's a very fascinating thing. Like, what are your mysteries at the time? Like, what are your concerns?
Yeah,
what are things that interest you? Like, I remember like reading Forsaken chapters because they don't really start for a couple of books in. Was just like almost like weird. Like, I don't know the right term. Like almost like erotic. Like, and like you get like a that's not the right.
That's not what you're looking for.
That's definitely right. Like,
I think he's thinking of autoerotic asphyxiation.
No, not
yeah,
that
because
either.
I was hanging myself. That's probably not right. No, but like you can, like, you're seeing behind the curtain, right? You're seeing like the other side, and you're just kind of like, oh my. And like every Forsaken chapter brings in like, here's a little bit of the puzzle that you wanted to know, and then here's 5 pieces that you didn't even know you didn't know about. So the idea of like not just starting at book 7, book 8, book 9, but like, you know, that far in, like Path of Daggers, Crossroads of Twilight, just kind of like there's so much shit going on.
Yeah,
it's already known. You're just kind of like, yeah, that's normal, right? You just finish that.
I'm just gonna read the next book.
Oh, you can absolutely heal someone from the opposite gender, and he or she will have total power back. You're like, wait, what? You can't even fucking do that.
Yeah, that's true. The differences in like what we knew at the times when we were reading the books versus what somebody would know now or then, or like it is an interesting. It changes your perspective on the series for sure.
Also, why did you stop this? He was on a good fucking conversation.
I stopped it because you were holding up your finger.
That doesn't sound like...
Getting back to it.
Also, Peter, I apologize. That sounds exactly like me.
We're cutting all of this out.
Oh, no, I'm keeping it in.
Right, okay. It was that moment that I was hit with the scale of what this was going to be. And then that was the one punch. The 2 punch, was Moraine, in the garden. I forget the exact words, but the prophecies have been fulfilled. The dragon is reborn.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
That was the 2 punch. The 1 punch to the gut,
that is a strong
and
punch at the end. Yeah.
I was done. After that, I was hooked. And then, because back then all the heap of books were out, I was able to pick up The Great Hunt.
And just keep going.
Got straight into it. The man who called himself Bors kind of, slowed me down for a bit, but got into the first chapter. And because I'd read book 1 so, recently before reading chapter 1 of The Great Hunt, it was very obvious to me the parallels,
right.
and more recently they hit me because of the whole Star Wars Episode 4 and Episode 7 parallels. There was so many like copies of exact moments, between A New Hope and, The Force Awakens.
Right.
And so like when you look at chapter 1 of The Great Hunt, there's almost like moment for moment 5 or 6 different moments that are exactly copied from chapter 1 of Eye of the World. And like, I know it's obvious.
Which was copied from Harry Potter, right?
Yeah, which is copied from Harry Potter, of course. But for me, because I was reading it by myself, and back then, there was no such thing as reread podcasts or whatever. Like, I was discovering all this thing and these things and these moments of, like, I was looking at, just going over here in the notes, I've got my iPad open.
Are you jumping into chapter 1 now, or are we officially starting chapter 1 review?
Oh, yeah, is that all right?
Oh, yeah, it's fine.
Am I allowed to?
First of all, I have a couple of questions. 1, did you read the prologue to get to chapter 1 and 2, or did you just skip to chapter 1 and 2?
Oh, no, I read the prologue. But it was just a bit confusing.
Fair enough. So I asked Tom and Jono just now, do you have any questions for Peter, dickheads? And then Tom said, what's a dickhead? So I think Tom's question is, what's a dickhead? And then I I said, is that your question? And he didn't respond. So I assume that's his question. And then Jono actually wants to know, hey, why tWoTcast? So I guess he wants to know why you started listening to our fucking podcast.
Well, so for Tom's question first, I would say I go back to the moment. It was more highlighted by Lauren more than anyone else. The whole dick yeah, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
You know, just at the moment. So a dickhead would be.
That's old. That's old. That's deep cut, Peter.
Yeah, that's deep cut.
A lot of people are going to be like, "What dick? Yeah, fuck
that's part of the the reread as opposed to the reread.
Yeah.
And so a dickhead would be a fan of tWoTcast.
Oh, okay.
That would be my definition.
Good, Tom. That's a good answer. It's a good answer. Dick yeah, fuck yeah. I guess I would respond to that.
That's right. So for Jono, I could be really derogatory and say, hey, there was nothing else around there at the time. What else am I going to listen to? But no, Jono, that wasn't the case. Like the reason, I got hooked on it is partly because, I was reading it by myself and it was just, there was so much in the books that I wanted to investigate what was out there in terms of, I need to share this, with other people. I need to hear other people's opinions. The scale is too big for me to deal with it myself. And I literally just did a search, and found tWoTcast, and the way that you guys talked
like,
about
these guys sound good. No.
Yeah. No, I think that's the thing. And I forget what episode it was because you'd already been going for, a heap of episodes already. So I don't know around what stage I got you, but, I listened from the beginning and.
Yeah, I used to do that with podcasts too. I'd go back and listen to everything.
And so the trick is with that is that the reason I was attracted to the podcast was because you could talk about something that was so entertaining for me, so engaging, with such a huge scale, but, you weren't full of yourselves, like you're actually having fun talking about it. Like you could have the brown, Arjar Jono moments, right, which I have myself.
Yeah,
right? But you don't get wrapped up in being like pretentious or anything. And I think that's what grabbed me, Jono. If you want to, pass that through to Jono for his question to say. Yeah, but
he's
that's
probably
what grabbed
laughing
me
right now.
Yeah, but that's what it was. The fact that you could enjoy it, but not be so, serious about it.
Or anything.
Certain parts of your sense of humour might have been a bit too extreme even for me. However, on the whole, I was just totally... And it gave me some, let's say, friends, to walk that journey with, leading up to the release of the final book in the series.
Well, that was very flattering.
That was true.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what we were trying to do, honestly. So I'm glad we succeeded on at least for one person.
Well, at least I can speak for myself, and for myself, yes, succeeded.
All right, chapter 1. Tell me about it.
Well,
and also I'll take some more of your drink there before you start.
Oh, I shouldn't I? I have plenty of that, Captain Morgan. I'll leave the chapter summary or synopsis to Tom. He is the best at these things.
He's very succinct.
He's very succinct. But what I will say is, I think as I was saying before, because I read it so soon after reading The Eye of the World, the parallels just hit me straight away. Like put it this way, first of all, I was relieved that we got to Rand, and land, after, the man who called himself Bors.
Right, yeah.
So back to what I knew. And that moment of forming the flame in his mind, concentrated on it, tried to feed all emotion and passion into it to form a void within himself with even thought outside. That straight away reminded me of chapter 1. And then everything else flowed on from there. You have a
solid point. Yeah.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like that moment. The whole bubble of evil, like fighting, practicing with Lan on the tower, being trapped, by the wind, which, most people seem to think is a bubble of evil, and I agree. And then what came after that was the really interesting part, right? As soon as Lan says, right, after Rand complains about, the wind, was solid as a wall, it trapped me, it pushed me. When Lan says strange things can happen this close to the blight.
Yeah.
Right. And it reminded me exactly straight away of Tam in chapter 1, like after Rand, sees the fade, and he stumbles.
Right, yeah.
Right? And Tam turns to him and goes, "What's wrong?" And he goes, "I just saw this and, this guy with the cloak,
right,
the rider. We can go back and look if you want." No, it's fine. And he says, I don't have the exact quote here, but Tam basically says, these are times to, a man can imagine such things, he basically says exactly what Lan says.
Lan says, yeah. That's interesting. I never even put that together.
Never thought of that.
You're more brown out than Jono's ever been right now.
Because remember, Tam says, when he goes, he was there, a man in a black cloak on a black horse. I wouldn't doubt your word, lad, but where has he gone? And he goes, I don't know, but he was there. He was.
And he says, hoof prints leave, or horses leave prints in this ground, even if it's cold or whatever.
But then the key here that made me realize is if we find them, we'll know for a fact he was there. If not, well, these are days to make a man think he's seeing things. And so, you go from there, and then it just goes on. Everything from there, the next thing is the reference to the void. When Tam says, "Remember the flame, lad," and the void. So again, refers to that's from Eye of the World chapter 1, Great Hunt chapter 1. Right, where he's actually considering that, and so everything there, from then on, or at least most of it, is a continuation of that. Rand in chapter 1 of Great Hunt, Rand's staring up at him in surprise. He's acting like nothing happened, talking about Lan, right? Again, it's like Tam, who just adjusts and think, okay, nothing's happened, let's keep going. Now, of course, they have this discussion afterwards after he, Lan smacks him. And for me, there's all this reference to Lan talking about Rand's relationship, with Tam. And for me, that's very biblical. There's that line of, in the borderlands sheep herder, if a man has the raising of a child, that child is his, and none can say different. That's Joseph and Jesus stuff, right there, just saying,
right.
Even if he's not a biological child, if he says he's a child, that's his, no one can say any different.
Yeah, it's almost like you have an intimate knowledge of the Bible.
I've read parts of it occasionally.
Yeah, gotcha.
And so, going through the rest of it, it's funny. It took me a number of rereads or rereads to get some of the rest of what happens. The discussion about Moraine, Rand being a crybaby. Oh, she doesn't want to talk to me, and she's not even talking to me, and she's treating me like nothing happened. And it made me sort of read back about all those discussions of, where is it?
You get a tiny bit of in the very, very end of Eye of the World too.
Yeah, there is a little bit like that. And obviously we hear it later in later chapters in terms of, Moraine was doing this on purpose. There's this whole thing of, she's not around, she's disappeared, she's not saying anything. And there was that whole conceit, apparently, of after the prologue, the Dark Friend Social, of having Lan saying, "Oh, she's back," last night, to sort of to try to make the reader think that she might be Black Aja, she just got back, and Ingtar's coming back just after it. Right. But I always thought that Moraine didn't go anywhere. She stayed there. She didn't actually go anywhere at all. And Lan bloody knew about it. Right? Probably. That she stays there, didn't go anywhere. It's just part of manipulating Rand.
Oh, I love
knowing him so well, how he would react, that he wouldn't leave because his friends were there. And that line of, sorry, I just said to skip ahead. There's that line towards the end of the chapter that I think describes, everyone says, why didn't Lan just go, did Rand not just run away? There's a paragraph towards the end that says this, talking about the Aes Sedai, they knew things, had knowledge that could help him, he was sure, and he did not dare ask any of them. He was afraid they had come to gentle him and afraid they haven't too, he admitted reluctantly. Like, I don't know which scares me more. So he's scared of being able to channel. He wanted to run away, but if he ran away, then he was afraid that they wouldn't be able to deal with him. So that balance, I think, was, I think important. Then that whole thing of both the first chapter and the second chapter ending with Rand running, I think was, literally the last sentence or two is about him running. So he's been sticking around. He hasn't been going anywhere. And all of a sudden, as Moiraine realised, as soon as he was faced with the big boss lady coming, the Emerald seat, that he would freak out and actually decide to go, which is why she put down the order to the gates, to be locked. I believe that's, by the way, I believe she's the one who did that.
Oh, you do? Oh, okay. Because I don't know if that's ever clarified. I think it's definitely Moiraine. I read something this morning just because I thought, I wonder if I'm right. Talking about the timing. Yeah. Like, there's no way Swan would have had time to actually give the order. Right, yeah. But why that's important to me, apart from being a bit Brown Ajar Jono type thing, is that I remember when I had that realisation, mainly because it was all about Moiraine manipulating everything, and she believed for the right reasons, and hiding it so very well, is how, as we get into chapter 2, how it messed with Lan, and how Lan, this gave the moment of Lan being pissed off with Moiraine. Yeah, when he was upset. Yeah, when Lan realises that Moiraine is really messing with. Well, it kind of. It's hard to blur the lines between it. Right? Make a distinct line, Peter.
I can't do it. I can't do it. I don't have the power. Right? But that's looking ahead to that. So he's already a little bit perturbed, but not really, which gives me the understanding, I think, that he knew that the Amyrlin seat was coming, because obviously Moiraine would have found out through her eyes and ears that she was coming.
Yeah.
Right, that's why she appeared just as they were coming back, and Lan would have known. So he wasn't surprised, and that was not just him being stony-faced. That was him being in on that first part of the plan, but obviously not total, part of the plan. So then when we go to chapter 2, the welcome. Is that enough of a line?
All right. So the funny thing with Peter was getting him not to just flow right into chapter 2. I was like, Peter, I need you to stop at the end of chapter 1.
I will say this first. Could be drunker.
Yeah, could be drunker.
Well, it was 9:30 in the morning.
Hey,
yeah, I'll be honest.
I've been drunk at 9:30 in the morning.
That's true.
I in no way am upset with him for not being fucking drunk at 9:30. I mean, that's tough. Unless you, that's dedication that in no way does this podcast ever deserve the dedication to get drunk as fuck on your one day off for, I got to be on tWoTcast. Hold on.
Hold on. It's 9:30 in the morning. Let me get hammered.
I could only be hammered at 9:30 in the morning if I was up until 3 o'clock in the morning the night before.
And then I was
basically just still drunk.
Yeah.
As we talked about earlier, which I think will be edited, unless Tom's a dick, it is fascinating to see what happens as like a fan who comes in later on.
Yeah.
Except questions already answered, like as you're reading. But also it's fascinating to see kind of the things that, I wish Peter were a smarter person and didn't listen to me, or didn't Brown and Jono. No.
Well, I mean, to be fair, when he said he listened to us, not because we were the only thing available for other reasons, we kind of were the only thing available at the time.
That was us and, like I said, it was us and Fourth Age, but I mean,
we were
they were doing random. Yeah, we were very close to the only thing available. This is what you're playing.
Yeah. Peter deserved better, and I apologize.
Now new listeners have a myriad of things to listen to or watch on YouTube or whatever.
Which I believe is term for a vagina, a plethora of options.
Yeah, I really liked his
that's what's on
parallel
a baby
discussion. Like, that's something I had never even thought of.
What was that, Joe? I'm sorry, I was listening to Tom's shitty joke and laughing way too hard.
We were both talking at the same time, so whatever.
No, what you were saying, like what you were saying, what he was saying, Joe. I'd never heard anyone say that before, ever.
Yeah, so here's the thing. Like, part of even when we did this the first time 10 fucking years ago, we had already read the book so many times. So it's like some of his impressions and the things he was bringing up was very interesting to me because it wasn't
fascinating. Yeah.
Not only was it not something I had thought about in a long time, and maybe I had the first or few, 2-3 times I read it, but it had been so long since I felt that way. I didn't even have those thought processes when we reread it for the show 10 years ago, let alone now. So it was kind of cool to see like where his brain was when he did a really good job of remembering what he was thinking when he read it the first time, which I thought was amazing. But like,
do I think that Land knew that the Amirlan was coming? You know what? Honestly, I just assumed no, I guess at this point. Like my assumption is no, but Land's kind of unshakable, laughable, and therefore sees it and just says, sucks for you, dude.
It's an interesting idea of like how much Land knew of Moraine's plan at the time and like how much he was allowing himself to like reveal to Rand versus like just Moraine's not telling him anything, which is kind of what I always assumed. Like Moraine's just not telling him anything.
So much of that makes sense, but it just feels somewhat contradicted by Land's actions. Like a few
exactly. He's gonna fuck with him, like, hey, put this pin on, put this on, maybe put your hand in these like weird.
I think that's kind of what he was talking about in terms of the resentment towards Moraine not telling him the whole plan, though.
Or maybe
not necessarily none of the plan, just like maybe not the whole plan.
Maybe it's not weird, and that's kind of what Land had been planning to do all along.
Yeah, so maybe he knew the plan, and he was like, "Oh yeah, you're going to do this to this kid? How about I'm going to do this?"
Instead of some weird spur of the moment thing, as if it's a scene to read. Maybe.
I mean, he does have the Malkiar pins ready.
Yeah, he does, and also the parallels between Land and Tam is extraordinarily interesting. I had never thought of that ever.
I had never thought of that.
I was just like, that is so awesome that you pulled that out of. Just the fact that you read both the books close together.
Yeah, and as you know, I think I cut you off, Tom. You go first.
I was going to say my only problem with that is if you read it that way, it almost makes it seem like they're setting up Land as a replacement for Tam, which I guess he is in a way.
Which he sort of is. Yeah, he's a single father figure to him for a long time. Like up until like book 9, they're in.
Never mind. I don't have a problem with that. I take it back.
I take it back.
You can go further.
Another thing go ahead, John. I'm sorry.
They both have, one power made swords, which, is obvious. They both have kind of like.
They're related.
Yeah. But technically, in this case, Rand is actually more related to Land than he is to his own father. So how's that for
interesting note?
That's actually really true.
I really just on the note of being like the fresher eyes, I suppose, on the story than I think we even had 10 years ago. Like the Moraine possibly being Black Aja because she got back, quote unquote, last night. I was like, oh my God, maybe I thought that at the time, but I definitely. Maybe I thought it and disregarded it, and then just never thought of it because I never brought it up on the podcast.
I think I thought of that a long. I think
we discussed it actually. No, we discussed it in the context of Baron. So later on in book 2, there's the piece where what Moraine says versus what Baron says are not. Not even like you can interpret that incorrectly. They are 100% at loggerheads.
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can kind of go like, well, Moraine just got here right in time. Maybe it's dark and social kind of thing. But the answer is that Varen obviously was there in some form. Maybe she wasn't obviously there, but Varen is a dark friend. But technically, well, not a dark friend. She's Black Aja, but not a dark friend. And therefore, everything that was happening was intentionally. Moraine did not know, but Varen could lie. Jordan always did a great job of like throwing in like, or maybe you shouldn't trust the Gandalf character.
Right. Yeah. So that was Peter's chapter 1.
Chapter 2.
Chapter 2. I did not write the title down for some reason.
The Welcome.
The Welcome.
Oh,
that's
the
right.
Welcome.
And it's Rand's perspective, of course.
All right. Rand gets new clothes. Packs leave, watches the welcoming ceremony of the Maryland, finds out that no one is allowed to leave the keep. That's your chapter.
That honestly, it is the chapter. Like, there's a few pieces of nuance, but not really much. Like, obviously, as we talked about briefly, they all want to see his dick when they're changing his clothes.
Yeah,
which is
they took second time in 3 chapters where somebody wants to see somebody else's dick while they change their clothes.
He does briefly talk about the public bath houses in Shinar, which
and the fact that clearly he's seen some tits at the very least. It's like,
I would take so many baths.
absolutely.
Oh yeah,
Like
I'd be over there just like clandestinely jerking it. Like,
I hope Lady Amalisa is pretty hot because she's going to be like scrubbing Rand's back at some point.
Yeah. Every time I got like went outside, I'd be like, God damn it, I got a speck of dirt on my finger. I'm gonna take a bath.
I'm gonna take a bath.
It's a weird thing because like he even like
I gotta go wash up, guys.
mentions, like,
we just got out here.
I gotta tell you, if Rand is that concerned about people being in the bath with them, the easy way to fix that is when they come in, just stare at their tits and start jerking off. Don't leave.
or will they?
Even better.
He specifically mentions Agelmar has come into the bath.
Shyly jerking off with flushed cheeks.
It's a win-win for you. Just start jerking off. Either they'll leave or somebody else will jerk you off.
Maybe what he should do is jerk off onto himself and then be like, I need to be cleaned, please.
Got to take another bath.
Yeah, and now she's got to clean
cum all over my hand.
Yeah. Took an interesting turn.
Matt's in one of the other bathtubs with a lamb.
See, we think we don't have any. We think we don't have anything new to add, but it's just not the case.
There's always something. There's always something for us to find, and this one is quite obvious.
So they
Do you think Rand's never nude?
Yeah, he's wearing his jean shorts. He's wearing his jean shorts in the bath.
Yeah,
he's like my favorite
the ladies
character.
are all like on one side of the bath waiting for him to stand up, like poised and waiting, and then he stands up and just wearing wet jean shorts.
What the fuck is this?
Could you imagine if you lived in Shinar and you had a small dick? Like, everybody would know within the first 5 days.
Well, why isn't Bill married? Have you seen his dick in the baths?
Yeah, that
Dick in
super
his
small
bath?
dick.
that just gets around so fast.
Old Bill Shinar. Country's named after him.
I don't know why they named the country after the guy with such a small dick.
He's a descendant, Tom. He's just
why it was?
It's inbreeding.
There was a better country to the north of them that held everything back. All small dick people were in Shinar because they weren't big enough to fight back at the real Blight.
That's why when Lamb walks into the bathhouses, they're like, yeah!
They're like, what is this? See, that's
I'll tell you what,
more of around here.
It's been too long since we've seen some Malkier.
These lances are ready now.
Let's move on to the next.
You gonna fly the Golden Crane?
They take all Rand's clothes, but they leave his Tom's cloak with his stuff in it. I think that was Moraine's instructions.
Probably. But he was just like in a cabinet though. Like,
no, it wasn't.
They went through all his shit.
He hid it in the stove.
In the stove?
Why would you
I thought it was like in a
stove?
footlocker at the end of the bed or something.
No, he talks about the fact that even though it's cold these days for winter, he hides it in the back of the brick little stove that they have for winter.
Well, that's dumb. What if a servant came in and lit a fire?
Yeah, why would you do that? Makes no sense.
He just goes into his room. Oh, it's nice and warm in here. Oh, shit!
It's like,
Tom's heirloom harp!
Does he think somebody there wants to steal the harp?
Yeah, that's pretty random.
Does he say why he hid it?
I think, I forget. Is that where he keeps the dragon banner, or is that later?
I don't think he has a dragon banner right now. He does not, for sure.
No, you're right. He does not.
Actually,
no, he doesn't.
Wait, does he get it right now? Is it in the package, or is that later?
It's later.
No, that's later. Moraine sends a package along, and he's not allowed.
Yeah, you're correct. You're correct, Joe. Yeah,
I haven't read this in a couple of years.
I thought you read it today.
I mean, I flipped through it.
The maids are very insistent trying to see Rand naked, which I think is funny because apparently he's been to the bathtubs like a bunch of times.
Didn't we just talk about this whole thing?
I'm just saying, it's just very strange how insistent.
Like literally all of it.
But Tom, did you notice there's one part in here, maybe two parts, where actually the maids want to see Rand's dick?
Yeah, do you know that?
I think I heard it.
Huh?
Wait, it has something to do with the bath, right?
Yeah.
No. Not the bath. They're talking about it here. They want to see his dick.
Gotcha.
So he bundles up. So I guess we kind of talked about this in the old episode, but not like a ton. But do people know what a dragon is?
No.
I don't know.
So why is he so worried about the dragon being embroidered on the cloak?
I mean, he knows what it is, and he probably assumes that. I mean, if he walks by a Varen in the hallway, she's going to know what it is.
Fair enough.
Because somehow Moraine knows, which is good enough to say, like Tom was saying, that at least a certain contingent of Brown Aja and or maybe better learned people across the world know
not
what it is.
Yeah, not a ton, I guess, because we can assume that Rain's done a lot of research into the Dragon Reborn. But
Yeah, but at the very least, there's a small enough contingent. It isn't a small contingent, but enough that maybe you don't want to walk around with, pretty much like what he thinks is a swastika on your shirt.
Here's a funny idea. Who stitched the dragon? So it's like, did she like walk into the be like, look at this amazing banner? Can you duplicate this, but like really small in this?
Yeah, I guess Moraine had to sketch it out for them. Also, what about
probably
he's wearing this coat and he's around Matt and Perrin, and they don't say anything about the sleeves, but then when he pulls the banner out and they see it later, they're like, what the fuck? And he's like, I would just be like, what are you talking about? It's on my arm. This whole time.
It's on my fucking shirt, dude.
He tries to pluck out the stitching.
Yeah, this is just a little dragon on his cloak. He's wearing plain clothing, I think, right now, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct. Yeah, he's got like one doesn't have it. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have spent a lot of time talking about clothes.
Well, it's interesting. It's a very interesting topic. Anyway, he watches the welcome. What do we got to hear?
So obviously, this whole chapter is about either him without clothes or his clothes. There's no middle ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so the Marilyn she can see Taviern, right?
Yeah, so that's one of those things that really doesn't make sense. I think it's it's later on in this book where she talks about the fact that like she stopped and it was like the sun fucking was blowing out of Rand's dick. But from Rand's point of view, all she did was just scan the crowd and keep walking.
Do you think for her it's like she can see Taviern, so like once she sees it, she's like, oh, cool, got it, and it stops, or like literally every time she looks at him, it's just like she needs sunglasses?
Yeah, it's a great question.
I love that idea. Oh god, let me put these on.
That'd be awfully distracting, and I mean Matt and Perrin too.
Yeah, so like we've talked about the topic before about like how the fuck do you even know this talent? And it's really, honestly, it's worth an hour and a half conversation while we get absolutely hammered.
Yeah, that's true. How would she have any idea what that even means?
We did this last time. We did this like 3 episodes ago.
We did, but we kind of skimmed it over real fast. But I mean, I understand your point, Jono, but like maybe she just knows because that's part of, like Min just knows. She's not a scholar in like foretellings. She just knows.
But it's also not. But it's also
she just knows somehow.
She doesn't act like it's new. You know what I mean? Yeah. Which means she's seen others before or something.
Yeah, but maybe they're like lower level, like they don't glow as brightly or whatever. Yeah,
we talked about this.
Maybe they just have like a light aura, and then she's like, "Oh, you sort of affect the pattern."
You're
that guy glows like the sun. I don't know.
You're a Taviern who can like very lightly affect the life of one very specific small dog.
Do you think if Siwan, when Siwan talks to Rand, Matt, and Parrot at the same time, she's like, Jesus Christ, can I get some sunglasses?
Cucumber in her eyes.
Why is the Amirlan seat always meeting us behind a curtain?
What did you think? Yeah, or what did you think about meeting the Amirlan? Like, it was okay. She squints a lot.
Yeah, she's squinting constantly.
I think she was winky. I think she was winky at me.
I can't tell.
That's not fair.
The warders remind him of Land, but they're all not the same, or they're all different, but but they all have that same Waterlandness to them.
I don't remember which Water it is. Which Water is it? Is it Ivan? Is he the fat one? I like the fat one.
I think Ivan's the fat one.
It's fucking fantastic.
Of Varens?
Yeah, Ivan's Varens.
He might not be the fat one.
I don't know. I don't remember either. I guess we'll keep a lookout for the fat Water later on.
He's portly, but spry.
You guys got anything else here? I think we're just to the gates are locked.
I just enjoy Tima the stableman. Just kind of aghast. He can't help this man to leave the country, even though Rand shouldn't be leaving anyway.
Yeah, I guess we could talk about the fact that this stable guy thinks Rand is some kind of king just because of his last name.
I've always liked that little detail.
Yeah.
We don't really talk about his name being like Randall Thor or the Thor piece at all, or like the son of Thor is technically what we should extrapolate his name to be. If it's like because honestly, it really doesn't fucking matter. His name is, any of those pieces don't really have pertinence to Wheel of Time, really. But it is
pretty impressive if you're the son of Thor.
Yeah, exactly. There's, I guess that's Natalie Portman's son.
Son, yeah. And as we all know, Natalie Portman played Hermione Granger in Harry Potter, so this is a ripoff.
Yeah. I don't think we need to do the podcast if you're just going to sit there and point out the obvious.
Yeah. We'd rather talk about Rand's dick, Joe.
What is the point?
Sorry. Do we want to circle back to how the maids want to see Rand's dick?
Yes.
Wait, circle back. Did we discuss that?
I don't think we did.
Don't recall. So that
the gates are locked, and this guy won't let him out. That's the end of the chapter. Are we done for real?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, he says everyone's just working under the assumption that Agamotto ordered the gates closed, but I guess we know that's not the case.
That's this chapter, and let's listen to our recap from Peter in Australia for chapter 2.
Literally, Rand is still running. Fancy that. Right? Which he should have, as Land says, he should have been doing for the last however many bloody weeks.
Yeah, it's quite a few weeks. Right? I feel like he needed that time with Land to learn the sword, but,
and it's true, but I think that was an excuse. Like, there was the Taviran, the 3 Taviran things, basically, I was almost say 3 Taviran pulling together, and I thought, no, that sounds like something Jono would say. But the 3 Taviran sort of, revolving around each other, sort of being drawn to each other. So he's just making excuses for that. Oh, Matt and Perrin are here, and everything else. So they get into that, and it's
like they're getting sucked towards each other. Like all 3
that also sounds like something that Jono would say. Just be careful, Joe.
Inwardly.
So anyway, the next thing. This is where it gets into the fact that, dealing with the Shonarans, obviously has echoes for me because I lived in Japan for about 4 years. And so all these moments of him running through and dealing with the changing, the clothes and everything like that. He's running through, goes, okay, I've got to get away. Rand says, I've got to pack all my stuff, right? I've got to get my clothes. Right. And he goes in there to get his clothes and he finds that they're all being replaced and he shoos them all out, right? And they're all trying to come inside and have a peek, right?
Yeah.
Have a bit of a gander about what he's got going on.
Yeah, a bit of a gander. That's what we call it here in the States.
Yeah. And he was just totally, not having any of it, right? So for me, like in Japan, like the first time I went, I was younger as an exchange student. Second time, like in my 20s. And there were moments like this where, for example, you'd be like staying somewhere, all that stuff about the baths, the bathing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right. It really, reminded me of being in Japan because whenever those encounters happened, right, even if it wasn't a public bath, you're staying somewhere, for example, and like someone, the homestay mother, whatever, would come into the bathroom or whatever, like not to try and have a gander, but just to give you another towel or something. Right? It wasn't. There was no like.
No, sure. They just don't think it's
reason
weird
for
Yeah.
it. Yeah. Right? It was just like, oh, I think I left a towel for him, but I'm not sure. So I'll just, walk in and give him a towel. And I was the one that was shocked, just like they were. And I thought, I understand what it's like to be Rand, because, he was the one that was shocked, and they were just like, everything's just normal. They weren't trying to be creepy or anything. They were just trying to be,
but they were,
hospitable. Yeah, they were just trying to be hospitable. Right. And of course, once they realized, again, like book one with Perrin, and the Tinkers, right? Once they realized he was embarrassed, then they decided to make a joke of it, But that kind of thing happened all the time. They weren't embarrassed. I was. Right. So I totally understood those kind of moments. The other thing in chapter 2, when he's going through the clothes, like I really understood that part of Rand looking at it and having that moment of, all this stuff is too flash. This is not me. Right.
Right. Yeah.
And I suppose what you could call my day job, if you want to call it that, there's a lot of, I want to have the clothes, or let's say uniform, that we have a choice of, that's not flashy. Right.
Yeah.
That doesn't have all the gold, edge stuff, that's just sort of simple, because that's me. That's not trying to be pretentious. Like Rand wasn't trying to be pretentious. He's just like, I don't want to pretend to be something I'm not. Right.
Yeah. The opposite of being pretentious. Yeah.
So there's that line, where he looks at all the clothes, he sees everything, and he says, one cloak was plain stout wool and dark green, the other deep blue with a stiff standing collar, embroidered in gold with herons, ... and high on the left breast where a lord would wear his sign, ... And that whole thing of his hand drifted to the cloak of its own accord, as if uncertain what they would feel. His fingers brushed the stitching of a serpent curled almost into a circle, but a serpent with 4 legs and a lion's golden mane. And goes on with that description. And that's another one of those moments. That's the first moment really in this book where I went, holy shit, the scale of this thing.
Yeah.
The ...
I love
really,
that, actually. Yeah, it's good.
I'm a sucker for that, of the ... I know a lot of people don't like it, but that ... and he feels it. It's like that moment of, when he's getting the banner later on. Again, yes, addressing the chapter far ahead. The banner out of the pack.
Yeah.
That moment of, oh shit, it's the dragon's banner. That moment of seeing that and realizing, and then he goes straight into complaining about Moraine again, of course, right? But that notice of this thing is bigger, right, than just these people, and Rand's realization that he's, obviously the continuing realization that he's being a bit of a puppet. Moraine's stuffing him around, and she's not the only one. He's about to realize there's a lot of people trying to stuff him around. But that's when I really got an idea of the scale of it.
When you stuff someone around, is that like
mess with
pants are down at that moment?
No, I was trying to say stuff them around instead of saying something a little bit ruder. So like messing with them,
Yeah.
Trying to...
You can say fuck on our podcast feed. It's okay.
I know. I try not to say it much. The most I tend to say it is when I'm watching football. I tend to swear more. That's when I swear the most. But there is that growing realization as it goes through. And it's funny that Robert Jordan gets all this crap about talking about all these details on a cup or a cup of tea or a dress or coats or something like that. But this is one of those moments when it really, really mattered. Like when it really describes something bigger. And normally descriptions of clothing I don't give 2 rats about, but this really gave me a sense of the scale, and that's where I felt myself, even all these years later, that's a moment where I started to get more sucked into it. And even to the moment where he says, I'll pick out the stitching when I get a chance, he muttered. He had seen me picking out embroidery
he's still
and made a mistake.
Have that on there.
I changed their mind on the pattern and it did not look very hard.
Yeah,
right. So those moments in the middle of everything are actually more important than you think. Like Robert Jordan managed to fit more. Yeah, he deserves a lot of crap for a lot of things, but that kind of moment was really important. So he goes through this stuff, setting up his pack, dealing with, we don't have time to talk all about the stuff with Tom, when he looks at the harp and everything, the Gleeman's cloak and all that kind of thing. Except he repeats the whole thing of strange things happen this close to the blight. The reference again to book 1 in italics, and I won't make the Jono mistake of referring to page whatever on the... you only talked about that recently where he would... Yeah, right. But when he says in italics, leave the sword arm free, he thought, make them think I'm dangerous. Maybe somebody will. Like, as referring to the Taran Ferry moment in book 1.
Yeah. Also,
they're waiting for them to turn up.
Also in the palace in book 1.
And I suppose what I like about this is he actually, enunciates it. He actually says it out loud. It's like he's repeating Land's advice from the Taran Ferry moment in book 1. That's what I like about this. So again, it's alluding back to that. Like, he's showing already, the lessons he's learnt. Even though he's still a crybaby, about many things. He's showing us actually learnt a thing or two. So anyway, we're almost to the end of the chapter. Rand's racing on his way towards the stables, which of course, as we talked about, he's going to get refused permission to exit. He for some reason goes the long way around, which gives us an opportunity to see the welcome of the Amarylline seat. And there's the thing that reminds me of Rand encountering from afar Logain in book 1, Camelin. Rand flinched when her gaze crossed him. He felt as if he had been touched. And then later, just your bloody imagination. She doesn't even know who you are. Not yet. Blood and ashes. If she did, ... and ... 4 dots. Now, I'm a sucker for that kind of thing. As I said, I shouldn't be. I know it's melodramatic. It's an overused thing. But the ... moments in these first couple of chapters just really grabbed me, hooked me, showed me how, the scale of this thing, with all its faults, the Wheel of Time is just awesome. And those ... dots to help reinforce, those moments for a dunderhead like me. Sorry, a dummy like me. I think it was just great. So that's it for me. I just want to say thank you to you.
Absolutely.
And obviously, this is not part of the recording anymore. But you totally fine to cut all of this and just say, I also Peter about chapter 1.
No, come on. It's
and you had a couple of things to say about it.
This was fantastic, and I know it's just me and you here, but thank you from all three of us, and thanks for all your spectacular comments on Twitter about the podcast and all your patronage for us over the years, and thanks for being a fan of the show, man. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, and I hope you and Lauren and Violet stay well and safe and happy, and even Jono and Tom, even though they're not here. I hope they stay happy and well, and their families as well, eh? And thank you.
Thanks for being on the show.
It's fun. No worries. See ya. Bye.
All right. Well, that was
delightful.
Peter's recording.
That was delightful. First off, it's weird because he's much like Willie Stickman, but in a different context. He's been following us for a long time, and odds are this is a good person because of things. And the fact that that he listens, wants us to do well, and that kind of thing. First off, seems kind of incongruous with what should be happening.
What's his motive?
Yeah, what's his motive? Yeah,
probably wants to stuff us around a bit. I think.
Yeah. I want to stuff you around. I will. Well, I will.
He's trying to steal my money.
No, he's just a nice guy. And fuck me. The weirdest part is the problem I have is what do I do with good people? I'm fine with fringe characters like yourselves.
Horrible people.
Characters like vous, eh? But he's just a good guy. It's well, fuck. I don't want to do anything with that. I just kind of want to just let it stand on its own because I'd be a dickhead. But instead,
he sounds like he likes this stuff as much as we do.
100%. Yeah.
It's decades later. His enthusiasm is still very clear, and it was just really nice to hear a perspective from somebody else besides you two idiots.
Yeah, again, pulling in the parallels of like what was going on in that, even the chapter 2 of Great Hunt versus the chapter 2 of the World.
Pulling on what happened with Lan, with Lida, with
Pulling on that stuff
and
is
with
called stuffing around.
Oh, sorry.
No,
But when he stuffed around the stuff about like low gain parallel with the Maryland seat, like,
that was cool.
That was
as shit.
awesome. I was just like, holy shit.
Well, not only that, like it was a very clear parallel because in this case, what's her name? Swan can see Taviran. But Rand was seeing something weird, and we know that Elida was seeing something weird too. It's like it's a very clear parallel of one's the real dragon, one's not. And I guess my basic dumb mind, I never really put that together as a piece of interest. Obviously, we've talked about the fact that it's so weird that she would look at him, and it's so weird that you'd even know you had that fucking power. Time, but it's actually a really cool callback.
I really so the thing. I mean, I cut myself out of that conversation because I didn't want to. Yeah, agreed. But like on purpose, I cut my bullshit out of that conversation because I wouldn't.
Are you going to cut yourself out of this one?
Yeah, Tom, can you edit this?
Yeah,
out?
Absolutely. But no, I was talking about what Tom had said about the scene in Camelin when he Tom had made a note about like him having a hero-marked sword in Camelin's palace, like with Queen Morghast was like a big deal. Like, and I was like, oh my god, the parallels of that is interesting, and I was just like adding on to what he was saying, but because Tom had just brought it up in a previous episode, I was like, oh yeah, Tom had just talked about that. It was very interesting because we never really like touch on that later on about like how dangerous it is that he even has that sword, whether they believe he is a blade master or not. Just the fact that he's wearing it on his hip is like, well, he might be, kind of thing.
Yeah,
like the sense of
possibility, no matter what.
Yeah, and like when he was mentioning that in terms of like, well, I'm just going to walk around with a sword on because it'll prove something in the Great Hunt. I was like, oh my god, yeah, it totally makes sense.
I mean, there's a lot of low-key awesome moments in that chapter, and he really stuffed around and showed us that when, like he zeroed in on the ellipses or the ...
Yeah.
It's really funny, yeah.
But those are big moments.
That ellipse with an extra dot.
They are big moments. I mean, he's got that much passion for stuff like that. Like, I don't know what must happen to his body when like something like super huge happens. Like, what?
Maybe you should have a gander at him
when he read "Do Might as Well." Maybe I will have a gander at him when he gets to get into one of these books.
So one of my favorite things about what Peter had said was like that he gets shivers. And I don't I get shivers.
Of course you don't blame him. You do the same thing.
I know. The fact that he is such a fan of like epic fantasy fascinates me is that like he didn't get too like interested in certain pieces, but when he read the end of book 1, all of a sudden epicness, the scale, got him hard, as he would call himself. He would. When you start kind of bringing in the pieces of that and what that means, that's the thing that draws in. When I think of epicness,
and what you're kind of trying to say, the thing that I loved about his chapter breakdowns was his ability to pull his memory from when the first time he read it. I wish I had that ability. Obviously I don't. I'm repeating myself from 10 years ago, and that wasn't even the fresh take in the first fucking place. How are you remembering your thought process when you first read the series? It's awesome.
2 things. One, Tom, say that again.
We drink too much.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
and then secondly, we drink too often.
Yeah, we drink too much too often. That's good. Yeah. Point 1, point 2. Those are the 1-2 punches of tWoTcast.
It's not a good punch. Very weak by the end. Very weak.
That's what gives me shivers when we drink too much and too often. I'm just something amazing's about to happen.
Well, great chapter 2 from Peter, and back to the
great chapter 1 from Peter too. No, that's it's fucking cool as shit. The fact that we've got we had prologue and then 2 chapters from these guys that are fans that have been with us for a long time. And like, I love that it sounds like they've been with us. Like, it's like some weird, like, join us next week for whatever the fuck. I guess tWoTcast. But like, they're just good people that we like and that have been good to us. And
yeah, I guess
I just love our fandom. It's be such a thing.
All right, so if any of you guys out there are interested in doing a drunk recap of a chapter for us at some point along the line, go ahead and private message us on Twitter, or openly message us on Twitter. I don't care, but
or send an email.
Or send an email, or there's the myriad of ways to get in contact with us.
Or listen to us on iPad, Stitcher.
Anyway.
Or call John at number 69.
You open your thighs up for that one, Joe.
We're going to do this a bunch more times, not in the next few episodes because we didn't get our shit together and we just recorded a bunch of normal episodes, but we're going to come back. We're going to circle back around to this for sure.
Yeah,
we're going to have some people on.
We're experimenting.
Yeah.
Sexually. We're learning new things about ourselves and our relationships.
With our fans on Twitter and everywhere.
All right, so that's tWoTcast for this week. Thanks, Peter, I guess, or something. If you have any comments or questions, the best way to find us is on Twitter at tWoTcast.
Listen wherever you get your podcasts. You can email us twatcast@gmail.com.
You can join us in conversation on our Discord server, permanently linked at the top of our Twitter profile, which we have used
very rarely.
3 times, we'll call it.
I know, we'll get there. We're on Patreon now. That's patreon.com/tWoTcast. If you enjoy the show, help us out and give us $1 and listen to exclusive content, of which recently Robert on our Patreons, one of our patrons, asked us, when the fuck are we putting an episode again? And the answer is now.
Now.
Well, we didn't know what we were going to do. We used to talk about the Wheel of Time and the TV show stuff on Patreon, but then COVID stopped all the news from the show. And then also we've been doing a Wheel of Time reread podcast officially since January. So we're kind of like, don't really know what to do with the Patreon thing right now. But we figured it out, and we're back. We're getting back into it now.
The answer was we're going to take your money without any sort of respect given back to you. Thank you for your support.
Well, I was releasing like artwork on there until like April.
Hey,
like we've been doing stuff.
The regular show is what you're Patreoning for. Everything else is bonus.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's worth it.
Yeah, it's if you enjoyed this show, give us $1 on Patreon. It's not give us $1 on Patreon.
It's not give us $1 and then we'll give you more. It's already free.
tWoTcast theme song brought to you by Taffy Bennington at Sing with Taffy on Twitter and Anarchy 101 on YouTube.
All right, join us next week for the Wheel of Time Book 2, The Great Hunt, Part 2, covering chapters 3 through 5. You've been listening to Jono. Joe.
Keep the change, you filthy animals.
I'm Tom. Study your math. Study it.
All right, everyone shut the fuck up.